Danfall offers unparalleled, curated, and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent. Each trip is reliably curated to ensure visitors are gifted with an immersive and authentic adventure. Whether you find yourself strolling along the charming white sand beaches of Sierra Leone, feasting on the mouth-watering delicious foods in Senegal, observing or partaking in various aspects of the Isheshi traditional system Ifa native to Yoruba land, Nigeria, with Danfall, you will rediscover a fulfilling sense of kinship to the true heart of the motherland, her communities. Our core values focus on integrity, quality, safety, and sustainability. We are uniquely committed to assisting with the advancement of African infrastructure and promoting African businesses, so both travelers and the communities they visit receive beneficial exchanges. At Danfall, we understand the importance of connectivity, and we have created a model which provides bespoke experiences based on your passions or hobbies. With us, expect a long-lasting spiritual bond between you and your destinations. Live, love, Danfall, Africa. To learn more, visit danfall.africa.
Let me get this together. Hold on. Let me get my mic together. There we go. There we go. Let me make sure the audio is right. There we go. Peace, family. We are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Uhuru. Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining. Hit that like button again. Please hit that like button. Also, make sure you share and make sure you subscribe. I will greatly appreciate it. What we got going on? Got a couple tours coming up. We're going to Senegal in May. Again, we are going to Senegal in May. That is May 9th to the 18th for the Jazz Festival in St. Louis. Again, we're going to Senegal in May for the Jazz Festival in St. Louis. If you're interested in joining and having a good time and enjoying some jazz, listening to some good music, and while you listen, oh, hold on, I'm live right now. And while you listen to some good music, eat the best jollof rice in the world. Again, eat the best jollof rice in the world. Visit Danfall.Africa. Go to Danfall.Africa. I will also, when you subscribe to the mailing list, I'm also going to call you as well. So visit Danfall.Africa to learn more. We will love to host you all in Africa. Hold on one second. Yeah, but come roll with us. Visit Danfall.Africa. Who's in the chat? Who's in the chat? Shared your website to my friends. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Thank you for sharing. All right, you know what? Hold on. I don't know if you're a man or a woman. I don't know. Thank you so much. Regardless, thank you so much. R rules -VHC. I'm a woman. Okay. Thank you so much, Sugar Dumplings. Sweetheart. Thank you so much for sharing the website. You know. Oh, what am I doing? Pressing the wrong buttons. Come on, Don. Let's get it back. There we go. So again, please visit Danfall.Africa to learn more. We are also going to Nigeria in August for Oshun, Zanzibar in September for Safari Blue. Then we're going to end the year off with Ghana and Ivory Coast and Sierra Leone in November. So once again, please visit Danfall.Africa to learn more. With that being said, let's jump into today's topic. Joy Reid Sometimes her mic just needs to be unplugged. And some of y'all be in the chat, get them, Joy. See the problem with a lot of black folks, okay? We confuse being loud, rolling your eyes, rolling your neck as being right. And that's not necessarily true. And I could be wrong all I want to, but as long as I hate Trump, I say I hate Trump and give a bunch of misinformation after that, nobody would challenge it for some odd reason. But I've been watching clips of the 154 podcast with Godfrey and I don't know the other guy's name. Please forgive me. The most recent podcast that Joy Reid was on with them. And the amount of fear mongering and misinformation that she was spewing and Godfrey didn't say ish about it was just wild. And how much she wants America to fail, but has never been to her mother country of Congo is just wild. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why do you want the country you live in to fail? Why? Just because you're upset that Kamala Harris blew $1 billion. All right, let's talk about it. Well, father country, mother country, father country. Okay. Let's talk. This is the reality, guys. Kamala Harris blew $1 billion in her campaign and lost every single swing state. You got to go out of your way to do that. You got to want to lose to do that. I don't care how you feel about Trump. I don't care what you think about his current administration. I don't care how you feel about the war and how you're upset that she lost. But to blow $1 billion and lose every single swing state, you're not serious. I'm sorry. How do you do that? Someone explain to me how does that happen? And that's why I'm not buying they don't want a black woman to rule um excuse. If you guys wanted the sister to rule and be president so bad, where were y'all in 2020 when she had to quit her? In fact, hold on. We're gonna pull up some footage real quick. Let's pull up some old footage. Here we go. Here we go, guys. We're gonna pull up. We're gonna dig into the archives real quick. Okay.
11 months ago, at the launch of our campaign in Oakland, I told you all that I am not perfect, but I will always speak with decency and moral clarity and treat all people with dignity and respect, that I will lead with integrity and I will speak the truth. And so that's what I've tried to do every day of this campaign. And here's the truth today. I've taken stock and I've looked at this from every angle. And over the last few days, I have come to one of the hardest decisions of my life. So here's the deal, guys. My campaign for president simply does not have the financial resources to continue and the financial resources we need to continue. I'm not a billionaire. I can't fund my own campaign. And as the campaign has gone on, it has become harder and harder to raise the money we need to compete. In good faith, I cannot tell you, my supporters and volunteers, that I have a path forward if I don't believe I do. So, to you, my supporters, my dear supporters, it is with deep regret, but also with deep gratitude, that I am suspending our campaign today. But I want to be clear with you. I am still very much in this fight, and I will keep fighting every day for what this campaign has been about: justice for the people, all the people. Our campaign has been about fighting for people whose voices have not been heard.
So where were you? Where were you guys at in 2020 when she had to suspend her campaign? You guys knew in 2020 that she wasn't fit. You guys knew it in 2020. She was at the debate getting embarrassed by Tulsi Gabbard. No, let me pull that up real quick. Let me pull up when Tulsi Gabbard roasted her. Let's pull that up. Where was the money in 2020? If you guys are so serious about the sister being president, where were you guys in 2020 when she had to suspend her campaign because she didn't have no money and didn't have a path forward? Where were you? Here we go. Tulsi Gabbard.
TurboTax locations are now open in your neighborhood.
Fair use.
So hand off your taxes to an expert.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need.
Okay. I'm just asking, where were you guys at in 2020? In 2020, when she had to suspend her campaign, where was team they don't want a Black woman to be president at? Y'all were nowhere to be found. She ran out of, you listened to her, she ran out of money, didn't have a path forward. Team they don't want a Black woman to be president was nowhere to be found. All right, let's get back on topic. Joy Reid.
I wish America.
Guys, let me say this, okay? Africans, not all, okay? Let me be specific. Guys, hit the like button. Again, please hit that like button. Africans, not all, but some, were complicit in the slave trade. Hard stop. We got to stop being disingenuous. Oh, they were prisoners of war. They didn't know. We got to stop. All right. I've been to just about every slave dungeon or fort, as Joy Reid will call it. And the story's the same. Again, I'm not saying all Africans sold Africans to the white man. I'm not saying that. but some were definitely complicit. Again, certain tribes were complicit. Let's just be honest. So we got to stop at the misinformation. We got to stop at the misinformation. Guys, hit the like button. Africans were selling, and some Africans were complicit in the slave trade to the point, I bring this up all the time, the Crescent Massacre. Go look that up. Port Crescent Massacre. Go look that up. What was the Port Crescent Massacre? So the returnees, or as you like to call them, American Liberians. This is how the story goes. When the freed slaves who decided to take their destiny into their own hands and go build a country called Liberia, as they were returning back home, slavery was still going on. And as they were coming to Liberia, many Africans who were captured and sold were leaving Liberia, and they saw that. So what did they do? They confronted the king about it, a native king. It was like, hey, we saw what was going on the other side. We don't support this slavery. You need to stop it. You want to know what the king did? He killed him. So the Black Americans or American Liberians or settlers, whatever you want to call them, I say Africans who are returning home. They confronted this king about what he was doing and said he needed to stop. The king said, no, the prophets were too good, and he killed them. That's why we got to stop with these Africans and sell other Africans at all. And just, oh my God, they didn't know what was going on. And oh my God, the white man just came with guns. We just didn't know what to do. We got to stop. Some were complicit, but let's listen to Joy Reid. Oh, Lord Jesus, Joy Reid.
American Blacks who get the chance to learn what colonialism did to Africa. Because it's not like African people didn't suffer. And I think there's a sense that African people sold us away and forgot about us. But they forget those people were destroyed. You know, as Michael Harriot said when we had him on for our Black History special, if Black people were selling other Black people, why did you need a fort? If this was a transaction that was...
I mean, come on, y'all. Where did he get these people from? If Black people were selling Black people, why did they need a fort? Are you serious? If Black people were selling other Black people, why would they need a fort? What? Huh? I've been to every fort in West Africa just about. And yes, and Black people were selling other Black people to the white folks. And those Black folks that were bought and sold were stored at the forts, Joy Reid, so they could be shipped. You can't make this up. If Black people were selling other Black people, why do they need a fort? So basically, these forts were used to, for the most part, prep these Black folks to be sent to the New World. I've been to just about every slave dungeon in West Africa. I've been to everyone. The story's the same. Links in the chat room. I just, and then they wonder why she's off of MSNBC. I mean, come on. Go ahead, Brandon.
Can you hear me okay?
Keep talking, but you must be on your Obama phone, but let's try to work with it.
No, man, I thought I had the issue fixed. Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
All right. So like people like Joy Reid, man, she's actually from Ghana, bro. And she just shows you that she is a person who's willing to put her loyalty to the Democrat Party or liberal chaos and degeneracy over anything, including but not limited to the truth. This lady knows that what slave dungeons were for. I'm sure she's been to Ghana, seeing as how her parents are from there. But she just purposely deceives Black people on behalf of the liberal agenda. The biggest issue is they realize that Black people we're in a crisis when it comes to our identity. I call it the African American identity musical chairs, right?
Hey, Brandon, she's
So,
from Congo. She's from Congo. Her dad's from
oh
Congo.
my bad. I thought she was from Ghana. Sorry. Well, she's from Africa. She know what the deal is. She's a journalist, allegedly. So she knows what's up. But the thing is, they know that there are people in our community that are itching to rewrite history. So when they throw stuff out like that, that's a dog whistle to try to bring more people under the radical leftist progressive umbrella. They don't really care if what you believe is factual. As a matter of fact, they will perpetuate non-factual lies as long as they know that can lure in a couple thousand more Black folks. It's the same strategy people like Tariq Nasheed use. It's the same strategy that people like Dane Calloway use. They'll jump and hopscotch all over the identity spectrum because they know that by doing that, they're bringing in another audience that is simply seeking an echo chamber that will never question anything they want to believe. There's so much nonsense with this. Was it the FBA? They're even saying that Gullah Geechees in South Carolina are tethers, even though they're like descendants of slaves, right? But people like Joy Reid, they just exploit Black ignorance and stupidity. And it's so funny because as much as people call her a tether or whatever, is she a tether? Are these people tethers because they're hurting you? Like in some way they're trying to take something from you? Or are they tethers just because you're too lazy mentally to actually stand up against the lies that they tell? These continental, these people are directly descended from the continent. They're not doing anything that the white man's not doing to you. They're just getting their piece. They're learning to exploit the African American's ignorance like every other group in America. So will we just attack them and bash them, or will we do will we do some soul searching and figure out why we're so damn ignorant and gullible? Because there are Black Americans that are going to cling to what she said. Watch. They're going to cling to what she said, and they're going to reference her as an authority, and they're going to reference her lie if they have the opportunity to weaponize it against some other person.
All right, go ahead, Skywalker. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, what's up, Donnie? What's up to the panel? Yeah, this is just another example of liberal ignorance. And like Brandon said, I actually agree with him. Some fool is gonna see that video and it's gonna confirm the bias that they got, and they're gonna run and go with it, and first thing they're gonna bring up is that you know, Africans don't like us or something like that, you know, yada yada yada, you know, that crap. You know what I mean? But I mean, but let me say this though, like I don't romanticize Pan-Africanism at all, right? I mean, the reality of it is that many of the people who actually still who are in power, in many respects, a lot of them billionaires or whatever right now, their families were complicit in the slave trade. I mean, it's just the reality of it, right? Matter of fact, Dinas, I think I told you a long time ago, I mentioned Louis Arthur Gates, who was the Chief Justice of Liberia, and he wrote. I read his opinions. Had the opportunity to read his opinions when he was the Attorney General. And in that book, like in the opening, he explains a lot about why Liberia was created and yada yada yada. But he also talked about how the African Americans got into conflict with the tribes who were on the coast when they first got there because they were still selling slaves. And so actually African Americans fought some battles with them and actually conquered a few of them and stopped them from doing it. But so like, I mean, it's a reality. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, they don't change nothing, right? But yeah, I'll stop right there.
All right, go ahead, Afro Man.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Again, Diana, this is a very good topic. I want to distinguish between two periods of the slave trade that I think we need to understand in order to make headway in as to how the slave trade was handled. First of all, you are right, Dynast. Africans were involved in the slave trade, but only during the second phase of the slave trade. We have to go back into history. In 1441, Henry the Navigator commissioned two Portuguese to sail to West Africa, Nuno Tristão and Anta Goncalves. Nuno would later go on and make 4 expeditions to the coast of West Africa. He first started around the Sahel region, Mauritania. He caught a couple of Berbers. All this is documented. You can fact check it. This is a fact. These are facts. In his third trip, he sailed down the coast of Senegambia, but he met fierce resistance from the local Africans. He was able to capture a few, took them back to Portugal, and reported that he had found the coast of the Black people where there was gold. He went on a 4th expedition where luck ran out for Nuno Tristão, because these fierce Africans that he met on the coast of West Africa fought and killed everybody in his expedition, with the exception of one person who made it back alive to report what happened. When he reported the amount of gold that they found, mind you, this was in 1441, the Catholic Church then got involved and offered and issued a papal bull in 1451, allowing Portugal and representatives of Portugal to go to Africa and colonize and enslave the Africans. Again, this is all facts. One that you find in these early expeditions is the palpable absence of African participation in the initial slave trade.
Bro, we lost you.
In reading
Afro Man, keep going in and out.
I mean, I heard him.
Can you hear me?
He sounded all right.
Okay, go ahead. We hear you now. Go ahead. All right. Okay, maybe you just pausing. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So in these initial slave raiding expeditions, Africans were...
Yeah, it keeps going out.
That Africans were brought to join when they... when the Europeans were unable to go into the hinterlands, into the interiors of Africa. Then you had also a situation where the Portuguese and the kings of Angola, they decreed a slave tax. Okay, they decreed a slave. Hello, can you hear me?
Afro man, you keep going. Like you keep going. You cutting in and out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's better. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. So then you have the issue in Angola, where you had the Portuguese actually issue what you call a slave tax, where the Kingdom of Angola was required to provide slaves in tributes. Okay, and so this set tribes against each other for a number of years. And eventually you found that Africans had to participate in the slave trade. But initially, that wasn't the case. So I want to distinguish between two epochs. Now, as I said, everything that I say can be verified. If somebody could even fact check this that I'm saying right now, we'll get to know whether I'm lying or not.
The Arab slave trade debunked everything you just said.
I am talking about the transatlantic slave trade. There are two different slave trades. I'm talking about the transatlantic slave trade.
But you're using exploratory settling. You're conflating exploratory expeditions with the actual slave trade. One guy went to explore, he found slaves, and then once he found them, he came back, and those Africans participated in the hunting of the slaves because white people couldn't even go in the inside.
Let me
Brandon, let him finish. Afro man, you got a minute. I got to pass somebody, but you got a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Okay. Nuno Tristão and Anta Goncalves didn't find slaves. They found Africans that they enslaved. Big difference. Okay. And I'm saying in those first expeditions, Africans were not involved. They were simply Europeans raiding. And you can fact check this as I'm speaking. Go and fact check it. 1441, Nuno Tristão and Anta Goncalves. 4 expeditions. If you can find Africans participating, please call in and prove me wrong.
Mansa Musa had 1,000 slaves, bro. Africans didn't just stop trading slaves once the Arabs kind of took over a certain part and stopped bothering them. They continued selling and trading slaves amongst each other, bro. That's when the expeditions came. They found a place where people were friendly to buying and selling slaves. That's what they actually found.
In fact, you have Tipu Tip when you're talking to the Arabic slave trade. You have Tipu Tip, who was an African, who was the largest slave trader on the Swahili coast.
Yeah, but that's the Sahel region. I'm talking about the coast of West Africa.
Bro, that's like saying somebody was doing it in LA, but the person in Seattle didn't know. Come on, bro. That's ridiculous.
You have Seriki Abbas. You have Francisco de Souza. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, you was trying to do some feather talk right there, bro. I got to call you out.
No. I said provide the facts.
Facts of what, Alpha Man? What facts?
Okay. Did anybody sell slaves to Nuno Tristão and Anta Goncalves?
That will
provide the facts.
The what? I don't understand you.
Okay, so the question is this, okay? The 2 explorers that were commissioned by Henry the Navigator, okay? Their names were Nuno Tristão and Anta Goncalves. In fact, the city of Lagos itself is named after a Portuguese town called Lagos, a slave trading post in Portugal. Okay, so I'm telling you the fact that in the early 1400s or the mid 1400s, Africans were absent. And Africans here, I'm talking about the west coast and central coast of West Africa, were not the ones selling the slaves to the Europeans. It was the Europeans raiding. And only later that Africans in the West Coast participated by selling the slaves or their fellow brothers and sisters to the Europeans. That is the distinguishing mark I want people to understand.
I don't think, bro, they had whole markets and stuff, bro. When the explorers came, if they went in and interacted with the Africans, they saw slave markets because they were there, because that was the overflow of from the Arab slave. Bro, there were kingdoms in Africa, bro. You're acting like people like they came there and these people were like still walking around with like they was walking around with clubs and stuff like cavemen. They had established kingdoms and slave routes. They had slave trading routes.
Name the market. Name the
What?
market. List the market in the coast. List the markets.
I'm sure I could look up the markets. I'm pretty sure we could find them.
Well, until you do, you won't find any. The coast, the slave market from the interior.
Hold on, Brandon.
Bro. Okay.
So, Afro man, I still don't understand your point. So, what are you trying to say?
I'm saying,
okay. So, Afro man, my point: were Africans complicit in the slave trade? Yes or no?
Yes,
okay.
At a certain point, but not initially. That's my point.
Okay, but they
not
were.
Initially.
But they were.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Let me pass the mic. Go ahead, Em. Go ahead, Em. Unmute yourself, Em.
Thank you, sir. I could appreciate Africans because you seldom hear them denigrate their people. They want to deflect and cover for each other, saying we're not this person. It's like, regardless if it's true or not, I honor and respect them actually defending their own people. Not like, I'm not going to mention a dude's name on the channel, but we always denigrating black people. It's almost an equivalent. We want to take away from the things that we've done, and they want to add things and get credit for things they didn't do. Or even the fact that they don't want to take credit for slavery. Do y'all hear me good?
Yeah, go ahead.
Y'all hear me? Oh, yeah. So I think the last speaker, I think he's on the right track dealing with history. But one thing I never really hear people talk about is the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire codified slavery in the 12 codes. They say any non-Roman is subjected to slavery, right? And also, when they conquered Carthage, which was North Africa, Scipio Africanus, they enslaved the entire Carthaginian population and made them build everything. And it was so great. Their empire became so great. I think this kind of infected the entire world. Like, everybody wanted to be like Rome. In order to do it, you got to get slaves, get these builders, and conquer them. Because really, a slave is just a person that was defeated. And basically, they're trading their life for servitude. Otherwise, they'll die. That's what a slave is. So I don't like when people call a person a slave. They was human beings that was defeated. They was overpowered, or maybe they was deceived, or they was kidnapped. And they was just put in this situation for their labor. And like they say, tip, the Muslims who came after the fall of the Roman Empire, because the Vandals, they ended up conquering Carthage. And then Visigoths conquered Spain. And when Tariq and them came and took Spain, they actually emancipated the Slavs, or the serfs, and gave them freedom. And if they actually joined Islam, they had full freedom. But it was other people around the world who still had that desire and equated an empire. It's like even in Marxism, they say slavery is a normal part of the growth and development of every nation. It's inevitable. So I think this has to be rejected. There's this notion that in order for you to have economic power and prowess, you must dominate and have a subclass. And we see it like in Ivory Coast, they got a slave population picking cocoa for French corporations, Hershey. You got Congo. You still see it, but I think that whole idea originated from the Roman Empire, even in the Bible, when they had slaves in the Bible. Even they say, what's that was that in Timothy? Be cool, be good to your slave. You see what I'm saying? But I do honor and respect the Africans for always being on code. You never hear them denigrating their own people. Regardless, the Nigerians always talking good about Nigeria. They'll fight to the death, verbally defending their people. And I want to one more thing before I stop talking. I want to dispel the false notion that I heard. LAX, the airport. Y'all know LAX, right? In California. LAX was designed by a black architect, Paul Williams. Many buildings in America was built by black people. So we have 6 city colleges in Chicago. 3 of them was designed by black architects. The most famous building on planet Earth, the White House, was built by black people. So when a black American get on here and talk about blacks never built not one building, like, you can't be saying like that's so disingenuous, but that's what I'm saying. The Africans would never do that. Even if they didn't build nothing, they'll still say that we did. They'll still find something positive to say about their own people. And I rarely, seldom see the self-deprecation that comes from Africans. Even if they was involved in the slave trade, they're gonna say they didn't. Like Joy Reid, you know, she trying to make an excuse talking about Goree Island, but when you look at the history of slavery in West Africa, the Ashanti was enslaving people from Mali. They weren't necessarily selling their own people. They were selling rival tribes. So her whole point talking about they weren't selling each other, they didn't see themselves as each other. They were selling other Africans of different religions, different cultures, and different nationalities. And I don't want to hog all the time, though.
All right, let me pass the mic to Kidola. Go ahead, Kidola. I got to pass the mic to Kidola. Let me pass the Kidola down and let you respond. Go ahead, Kidola. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Dinus. Let me give you a shot. You see, slave trade, whatever they come in the second half, not come in the other half, Africans was fully involved. And some of these African countries were very, very powerful. I'm from the Benin Empire. You see, the Benin Empire was also fully involved. But you can say those history was being tied down and keyed down. The Igbos, Port Harcourt you see today, have been made of slaves that they could not ship to United States. And that was made up of Port Harcourt, Jaja of Opobo, all those creek and everything, also the something of Guinea. It was not the white man that came over there. It was the locals, the hitchmen, the kings of that time was very, very powerful, was doing all these things. There's no need to sugarcoat it. Lagos State today is a city of made of even the king of that place was even dealing with slaves. Manda Tinubu came out of that source. You know, it was one time wife of one of the king of Lagos, Akitola. You know, so we don't need to keep, they were not involved with this other. Man, Africans were having military men who know how to fight war formations. You know, today when you see what the tactics the Russians are using today, Africans know how to use it. You know, the brother for Ghana, I think, just tried to lie or cover up. Ashanti was their business with the white people for 400 years was slaves, nothing else. Slaves. You know, selling other the so-called ones that form what's called Ghanaian today. You know, Ashanti kingdom was made their business purely slaves. You know, they were dealing on slaves big time. You know, just like other big empires that were doing the same thing, not the empires, maybe big tribe or big kingdoms. How did Ashanti get the gunpowder? That they were using guns already to attack the other ones. You know, they were already getting the slaves. That's how they get these guns. You know, they were using these guns to attack other ones. If you don't bring 1,000 slaves to there, you're gone. You know, just like the other ones and the Dahomey that fall into line later started doing the same business and everything. Africa was fully involved. To the interior, to the coastal people were the ones first that collaborate with the white people. You know, then they start making friends with the inner ones. If you come to Nigeria, then we start, okay, why these people are like this? You say, oh, okay, this is slave. Even to my own village, there are people that we can say, oh, they say they're slaves. But yeah, but the real family people are not married from there anyway. But okay, this people, why they call it social name? But due to that, everything was being killed and died and abolished. Everything just become like that. Go to Igbo land, they will lie. There's what called Osu caste. The Osu caste system was never really anything that runaway slaves who run to the gods. Because those people there, they were very scared of their own gods. Up to today, nobody want to marry them. They call themselves freeborn. But those people are the ones that you see in Lagos. Because in that area, wherever they occupy, from Imo to Anambra to Enugu, these Osu people, they cannot be mayor, they cannot be governors, they cannot be anything. Even they cannot even marry among the other ones who say, oh no, we are freeborn. Sometimes Other tribes will come and marry them because we don't really, used to the system, and we not those are things that doesn't really concern us. Some of them you see in Lagos up to today that are billionaires, trade everything. Sometimes you think, why the Igbos don't want to go back to the East? Sometimes they are these people, Today you start thinking, whoa, this is very, very deep. No sugarcoat anything. It is what it is. Africans were 100%. I'm not saying honorary Africans. So the kings and all these and they are left heavy military generals were fully involved. That also today, some of them as descendants are still very rich out of it, and some of them, that's how the Igbo, all this Igbo you see in Igbo land are being created who are middlemen of of slave trade. That's just the way it is, bro. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Afro man. I got passed to the Shah.
Okay. All right, thank you. So, just one salient point, okay? Diners, have you been to Cape Coast Castle?
I've been to Cape Coast. I've been to Elmina. Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that the Elmina Castle, okay, that was started by Diego de Ambuja, who came to Ghana, okay, or the Gold Coast then, okay, in 1481 or 82, okay? When he came and met the king of Comenda, which now is Elmina, okay, he told the king, and this dialogue is actually written down, okay? The dialogue is written down between Diego de Ambuja, the Portuguese representative, and the king of Comenda. I have that document that contains the dialogue where they're going back and forth. Diego de Ambuja says to the king that he wants land to build a castle. The king rejected it. Diego de Ambuja then goes on to say, look, it's either you give us land to build the castle willingly, or we will seize the land and build it regardless. This is in the dialogue, okay? So the king reluctantly gave them the land for fear of them starting a war. Are you aware that when Diego de Ambuja built the castle, the locals were forbidden to trade with any other European power, with the exception of Portugal? The British sailors who also left Europe for search of gold and slaves, okay, document in their diaries and their reports back to England that the locals were refusing to trade with them for fear of reprisals from the Portuguese. This is all documented. Now, the speaker who just spoke before I came back, okay, lacks basic comprehension. I never said Africans were not involved. I said in the initial phase, Africans were not involved. They were being raided. And I have provided evidence. And I just told you, okay, the Portuguese themselves had a monopoly preventing the locals from even trading with the British, the Dutch, the Danes. If they found out there's a town.
They're being raided by who?
They were being raided by the Portuguese and the British, okay? Now, there's a document, okay? There's a first-hand document, okay? Where the captain of the ship for the British documented how they had to maneuver the Portuguese. In fact, there was a war between the Portuguese and the British. Anytime the British would come close to the coast, the Portuguese will fire. If you look at the Elmina Castle, the Cape Coast Castle, all the castles, you will see they have, how do you call those weapons? How do you call the weapons?
Cannons.
The cannons, okay? Directed towards the sea. For what? Against Africans? No, it was against other European powers, okay? The Portuguese were, don't forget that they were granted a monopoly by the Catholic Church. So they were guarding and protecting that monopoly. When you listen, these are facts. You can fact check me as I'm speaking right now. The British, there's a book written by them, by a scholar, that documents the diary input of the captain of what he saw. The fact that one time they landed in the coast of Axim in Ghana, the natives refused to trade. When asked why, they said they were afraid of reprisals from the
African. I think you're missing the point. We're not saying all tribes are all Africans, but there were definitely some tribes and some Africans that were complicit.
I've not made a point. My point is that
And what I'm saying is that
did
that
not.
fort and that fort in Elmina was a major slave trading hub. Period.
Yes, but I gave you the history of how it was set up. It was against the wishes of the king. Okay, and that
But the
was
point
based on a
he's making, the point he's making though, bro, we feel you, we understand you. I mean, we hear you, bro. But all we saying is there were folks that was complicit in
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like, we not
Afro man, like they were slaves that were
I
complicit,
agree. I agree. I just want to
and
distinguish
Afro man, I've
between
been
the
to Elmina, I've been to Cape Coast Castle, and the stories
been
are
there
the
too. I've been to
same.
go. Yeah, yes, I've been all of those things.
I've been to every slave dungeon damn near from Senegal all the way down to Nigeria, in every country in between, except for Guinea, except for both the Guineas. I haven't been to Guinea
I agree.
Conakry or Guinea Bissau.
All I want to do is
It's hard to say Africans were complicit in selling Africans to Europeans,
I
and
agree. But let's
forts
distinguish.
and these forts were used like Amazon distribution centers. They were slaves were stored there, and they were shipped out. I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah, but the forts were built by
Dinus, what we don't talk about. Dinus, what we also don't talk about is that once they were shipped, like there was like a manufacturing process. It's almost as if they came and got the raw product from Africa, put it through a manufacturing product. Put it through a manufacturing process, which turned the human being into a kind of product, which is the slave, and then shipped them out to like the northern part of the Americas, right?
Yeah.
And this
Right,
manufacturing process.
Skywalker, let me. We got other people waiting, so let me pass it to Shaw. Go ahead, Shaw. Unmute yourself, Shaw.
Okay. So I was thank you guys for having this space. Dinus, Amir, and greetings to everyone. I was on Kimmy AI and asking these questions. So started with the question about when, like the brother was talking about early, sort of early 1400s. It was talking about the Portuguese going into these areas, taking these 12 slaves to Portugal, Lagos, Portugal. And then as Spain and Portugal consolidated, they were taking Africans. These were primarily Europeans. So really, basically, from that early period in the 1400s to about 1441 to 1460, it appears that that's when African involvement was happening, where they didn't want to go into the interior, have these raiding parties and go in. They found it easier to deal with a centralized government. However, even with that being said, there were other African groups. The reason that they went to dealing with monarchs is because they had small groups had military. They had their small military, things that they were doing that they couldn't mess with them. They had these poison spears or darts or whatever they had, and it could penetrate their armor. And what else? They didn't have the gun at that time, or they didn't have the Gatling gun at that time. So they chose to go with the Kings, and they got involved pretty early on. But even with that being said, and I didn't know this, is that the groups still continued to resist. The Jola resisted, the Baga resisted, the Mosi resisted in Burkina Faso. And of course, we know even in the Congo, because we like to think of the Congo as just giving it up, right? King Alfonso, but no, there was resistance through what we know of as Queen Nzinga in Dongo. But there were other places that we don't even know that were resisting, small groups that were resisting, and even larger groups. So it was some kings that were involved in it, and it was a major portal of Africans going out. But what also helped, and I'll land with this, is that the Muslims, the African Muslims, that slave trade that was happening through the Sahara and the east coast of Africa, they became very active in bringing Africans from the interior of West Africa down. And we're not just talking about the Caliphate, Sokoto Caliphate, or whatever that's called, right? We're talking about in places like Burkina Faso and in Mali and other places that the Muslims who were dealing in slavery anyway, with the slave trade that lasted 1,000 years, they got involved with this and was the ones who were bringing Africans from the interiors into and messing with the middleman who would meet him at these slave places near the border of Ghana and Burkina Faso. They have a major slave port right there. And in fact, this brother we met talks about a story where his grandmother, his great grandmother, I think his great grandmother, or anyway, one of the mothers and great or whatever, they tried to capture her, and she was, beating some stuff with her pestle and mortar. It was two Europeans, and she killed both of them with the mortar or the pestle. She killed, and it was a big thing in his area. He's Garunsi. They call them Fra people in Bogatanga. So those kinds of things happen, and we're complicit, but the Muslims were part of that, and then you had people fighting. So it's a big mess, man. It wasn't just, they were just selling folks through. Must have sold a lot of people through those kings, though. But it was a lot of stuff going on. We were fighting. It was shit going on.
All right, let me pass the mic to Invisible Man. Go ahead, Invisible Man.
Hey, excellent conversation. I agreed with everything you said in your intro, everything. In 1447, Alvaro Fernandez anchored in an estuary of Roquel. He called it Sierra Loya. That was 1447. Now, I can't dispute what the guy says about the two time periods, but that was a port in what is now Sierra Leone in 1447. So that's only 6 years after what he stated in 1441. The Portuguese did have control over the west coast of Africa, but they were controlled by the rulers of Africa and what is now Sierra Leone. Now, I have this book written by Joy Reid. He was a 30-year professor at the university in Sierra Leone and just retired in February of 25. I get into conversations with people who just don't want to believe the truth and start spewing stuff about primary sources and secondary sources, but can't believe that a professor, a 30-year professor in Sierra Leone that has done all of his research and put it in a book, they will not take that as primary resources when he says that the Europeans, the ruler was the trader's landlord, and the trader, which are the Portuguese, became the ruler's stranger. The landlord was responsible for his stranger's security. Now, the Portuguese were forbidden to go to the interior, right? And in order to discourage that bad practice, coastal rulers began to demand hostages of the ship's crews as insurance against ungentlemanly conduct by European slave traders. Now, I can agree with everybody wasn't involved, but I have to go, and I believe my eyes when I read a book by a professor from Sierra Leone that states this. We can parse out what tribe did this, what tribe did that, but they were thoroughly complicit. That we cannot deny. And then the last thing I want to do is run down what M said, and I want to piggyback off of what M said with respect to what Black people in America contributed. You guys know what the real McCoy is, right? So the real McCoy is this guy who created an oil. He's Elijah McCoy. And people wanted the grease and the same thing because there were other people that were copying him. And so the term real McCoy came about. And you can look up Elijah McCoy, a Black inventor. The reason I pay attention, all these guys are from Detroit, and you know me, I'm from Detroit. So that's one of the reasons I point to some of these individuals. But he's also buried in the cemetery that my grandfather was part of establishing the first Black cemetery in Michigan. And that's where he's buried. Now, M talked about the architect of the LA airport. Well, also Howard Sims, who was born in the 1920s, he helped design the Atlanta parts of the Atlanta airport, the additions to it. Then we have Cornelius Henderson, who in 1911 graduated from the University of Michigan, couldn't get a job in the States, went over to Canada, and was one of the major designers of the Ambassador Bridge that connects the United States, Michigan, Detroit to Windsor, Canada. That's a mile long. And then finally, I'm going to end with this person, Ralph Bunche. Ralph Bunche is another guy. He was an architect of the UN Charter. He was one of the major contributors of the UN Charter. So when Africans come over here and they dispute what we've done, what we have provided to this country, and when we say the building blocks, we don't mean they built the Empire State Building. We are saying they put into place building blocks that assisted in that. So along with the LA airport, you have one of the major bridge structures ever to be built, the Ambassador Bridge. You've got people that helped with the Atlanta airport, and then Elijah McCoy, the real McCoy, where I refer to as Black Americans being the real McCoy of Black people in the world. And I will end it there.
All right, let me read the super chat. Shout out to African Goddess. Thank you for the 10,000 naira. Gonna give me some suya. I appreciate you when I get to Nigeria in August, maybe May, but for sure August. Bukunda Bay, go ahead.
Yeah, peace everybody on the panel. Dinus, thank you for having me. I just wanted to ask you for a big favor. All right.
Go ahead.
I have a video, okay, from Ayo Committee. It lasts I told you exactly where to skip it to because he touches on the subject, but now it's going to be up to you, right? To either let everybody speak about it and then let me come with that video later, or if you want, we can do it right now.
What did the video say?
The video talks about the very subject that we're debating right now. So do you want me to put it in the chat?
Yeah, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat.
All right. So it's up to you, right? Because I'm gonna speak right after it finishes. So I'm putting in the chat.
How long is the video?
It's about 5 minutes long.
Okay.
It's about 5 minutes. All right. So skip it. Look at the instructions. I told you where to skip it to. All right. Can you see it?
Yeah, I see it. Okay, I'm about to put it in the chat right now.
All right, please. And then I'm gonna speak right after that. All right. I'm gonna give my opinion right after that. Much thanks, Dinus, for that. For doing it. By the way,
I know Ayo Kimati. I know who he is.
Dennis, please, can you give me 2 seconds? Let me just tell you, because sometimes you see when you said these Portuguese kidnapped Africans, they didn't really kidnap these Africans. What they did is they partnered with some of these African kings and took some of their children to Portugal to learn the language, right? So that they can easily communicate good with the African kings and their kingdom, so that this slave business would boom. And when this slave business was booming, what happened? These Portuguese and other ones, they were marrying some of these African king's daughters, children, daughters, as their wife and everything. And these children some of them become like also foremen in some of this business also. The brother from Ghana, you have to. Well, why is he talking about?
Let me play this video because I just don't want to. Let me play this video.
English and the Spanish came together and expelled those Africans. Those Africans who got expelled would decide that now that they've been expelled from Southern Europe, now they want to go and fight Songhai Empire and West Africa, these strong empires, and fight them. So England did not want the Moors to go back into Europe. So they gave them cannons and gave them weapons to fight their own brothers and sisters. So with the Moorish destruction and defeat of the strong empires of Western Africa, they opened up the capacity for what we call the transatlantic slave trade. Now, we've heard of Christopher Columbus. He was a Jewish individual who, when the Moors got put out, the Jews were in a lot of trouble because when the Moors ruled for about 700 years, who was controlling the money? Who was helping out and supporting? So the Europeans were upset with the Jews as well. So they began to kill Jews and yeah, take their money and kill them and tell them that they had to change over to Christianity. So the Jews decided that they needed to leave Europe and find a new home. So Christopher Columbus was going on behalf of, that was his real objective, to go to find a new home for the Jews because they were having problems here in Europe. So before that happened, or as that was happening, Columbus was coming back and forth to Africa. Some of the slave dungeons where they would take our ancestors doing, once the slave trade started, he helped begin some of the first parts of the process of doing that. Now, there were Jews who would come into Africa, kidnap Black women. This is before the transatlantic slave trade. This is kind of how it started. And kidnapped Africans off the west coast of Africa in places like Cape Verde. And they would kidnap them, take them back to islands, reproduce children. And now those children would speak whatever the Jewish language that they were speaking and the African language, because the mother would know that language. Many of those children were the ones that would go in and later be the head slave traders in the transatlantic slave trade, because they were the children of the Jewish merchants who had kidnapped these women so they could speak both languages. So they became the merchants. So in getting to what happened, so you have the Moors now coming in, you have the Jews beginning the early part of how the transatlantic slave trade is going to work, building these slave dungeons, going to the west, many of them with Moorish maps, and some of the sailors that they're going with are with Moors over to the west, because the Moors were going back and forth to the west. So at any rate, the first place Columbus gets when he gets to the Western world is Haiti. That's the first place they hit in the West. So that's where Columbus went. And then they did a large part of exterminating the people who were there in that region. So after a large part of extermination, after some time, they needed to have workers to come and work as the Europeans began to go west. So that kind of created the need for labor. And they wanted free labor. So now they have this market of people who they can speak both languages in West Africa. And now they starting the slave trade. And because they destroyed these empires with the Moors, brothers fighting brothers, now they can take those captives, sell them and buy them, and take them where they've exterminated the Native Americans, and now replace those people with they would call the Taino. Now they can replace them with us doing the free labor. So that's just a small kind of synopsis of how the transatlantic slave trades begins. So now you have all these different European nations coming to Africa, starting in that West Africa period. And just to add one piece to it, prior to that, the Arabs were doing the Arab slave trade, mostly East Africa. So we would see Tipo Tip and some of the others, again, mulattoes who had a white parent and a Black parent, and were used to kind of usher in this mass selling off of our populations. So that was leveraged because some of the brokers in these slave trades, from the Arab slave trade to the transatlantic slave trade, were Jewish. So we just talked about their role in it. They played a role as merchants in both of those slave trades. That's one of the things that is part of the culture of Jewishness is slavery. From the time, you can just go back as far as you go back in history, it's something that they've been involved in, based in being merchants. So once we talk about Africans getting taken from West Africa and some Central Africa and some in Southern Africa, and they go across, where are they taken? One of the first places that we arrived was Haiti. And because it became so wealthy, because of the sugar trade there, that became the island that every European nation was fighting over. France, Spain, England, they were all fighting over this particular area because it was making so much money because sugar became so popular. Well, for the Europeans, the sugar trade was great because it was great economically. But for African people, it was devastating because we were the ones that had to do the free labor, and the free labor meant snatching Africans out of Africa, taking you from your families, separating, because part of the problem they have, we're not a people that just allow you to abuse us, but that's not how we're made. We're going to fight back. But it makes it more, they realize it make it more difficult when they can't talk to each other and they speak different languages. So part of the process of the transatlantic slave trade was to kidnap a village, and then you got different slave ports, separate the different groups and put them in groups that you know don't speak the same language. So now you have a group of African, we're all brothers and sisters, but we may have been groups that have fought in the past, or we may have been part of the groups that worked with the Europeans to sell us into slavery, but now we got trapped. So now your group is the one that sold me into slavery, but now you're getting sold into slavery. We don't speak the same language, but we don't even like each other. But now we both in the same boat. And so they would intentionally create those kind of situations so that it would make it more difficult for us to communicate and to rebel.
Looking for tax help? Now there are
All right, go ahead, Bukina Bay.
Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of the things that he said that he subscribed to. All right. Now, what I wanted to add to what he said, okay, is that slightly prior to the transatlantic slave trade, there was this era where they had like human zoos. Like a zoo is like a place that you have multiple like animals and stuff like that. They had the same in Europe, but made of African people that they kidnapped on the continent. All right. You guys just need to research it for a little, and you're going to find evidences like you're going to find the receipts about the zoos that they had in Europe, made of like our ancestors. All right. And they will like mock them, make fun of them, or like even ask them to commit all kind of like even sexual acts between themselves so that Europeans can enjoy. All right. Watch it. And like that, they was literally treated as animals. All right. So that was way, way before the transatlantic. So they will come to the continent, kidnap our ancestors and do those things. All right. Pardon me? So yeah, anyway, so my point is that's the point I wanted to make. Okay. Now it's only after they conquered us, like militarily, because there is the Boldum Diversa, the handwritten letter of Pope Nicholas V, all right, that was found. There is this African intellectual after the name of Assini Fasasi, all right? You guys can research him. And he wrote about this letter written by Nicholas V, all right? And it's a handwritten letter at a time that the Catholic Church controlled most of the European countries, right? He ordered the Portuguese government to release some of their prisoners and to go take African kingdoms by surprise, to brutalize them, and to take as many captives, Africans, female males, as slaves, all right? And those people, not just did they execute what the Pope told them to do, all right? But they even brought written reports of like how well they did the job, all right? This is for one, all right? Now, not just did this Pope do what I'm telling you that he did, all right? But there's two more popes in their time who did exactly what Nicholas V did, okay? Now, you have Pope Leon VI and you have Pope Leon IX, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm trying to figure where are we going with this?
Okay, what I'm trying to say is that it is simplistic, all right, to just sit here and be like, oh, Africans are the ones who sold themselves and put themselves in the troubles that they're in, all right? It's too simplistic, all right? Because you need to you need to account for the letter that I just mentioned, okay, of Nicholas V, all right?
Okay.
Wait a minute.
No. Bukina Bay, are you familiar with Seriki Abbas?
No.
Okay, so Seriki Abbas was present-day Nigeria. He was captured and sold into slavery, sent to Brazil.
Okay.
Goes to his slave master and says, "Hey, if you free me and take me back and allow me to go back to Nigeria, we could get rich off this slave trade." Slave master says, "Okay." He ended up becoming one of the biggest slave traders ever. Same thing with Francisco de Souza and Dahomey. I tell the story of the Port Crescent Massacre. We're not saying it's as simplistic, But at the end of the day, Africans were complicit in selling other Africans into slavery. I mean, that's all we're saying.
Okay, so Dynast, wait a minute, I'm not done. So Dynast, okay, I'll tell you why I'm going to disagree with you, and I'm gonna just give you an example, a quick example here, is that it's a little like if I was to say that Black Americans are complicit in like what happened to them simply because like there's few of them who enslaved their own. All right, this is how simplistic you're presenting it, but you're not putting in perspective that like those Black Americans who did this either had ancestry that were slaves or even themselves were slaves before doing what they did. You get what I'm saying? So this is the kind of simplistic approach.
How long have you been listening to submissions? Because my submission was talking about the nuances of how the crew, I didn't even mention it, the crew, the Baga, the Mosi, the
yeah, I hear you.
All of these groups were fighting against it. So well, it's not everybody wasn't doing it though. That's
that's not true. The crew were on the ships leading slave traders to what's the island? Fernando Po.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say, I'll land with this, all right, is that my father is Dagara. In Ghana, they call them Dagare, all right? In Burkina Faso, we call them Dagara, all right? My mother is Mosi, all right? The Dagara, they have a history of having been enslaved by the Mosi people, all right? But please, guys, look how cute that kind of slavery that they were victims of was, okay? I'll show you how cute it was, and you understand what I'm trying to say. Is that my father's tribe, who are Dagara people, they preserve their languages that are distinctive from like the Mosi people. They preserve their names, and they even preserve their culture, all right? And those are ex-slaves from the Mosi. So this is the kind of cutish slavery that Africans did to each other before the oppressive type came. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm trying to say here. So now, what I was saying earlier is that there's up to 3 written letters of 3 different popes, all right, who all did the atrocity that all of this needs to be accounted for. You guys can't just go straight to the Africans and discount up to 3 different popes. Discount up to 3 different popes.
No, but nobody never said that Europeans weren't complicit, but we're saying that some Africans were complicit. That's all.
Okay, so then, was some Black Americans complicit as well? Can we just put it that way?
Yes,
well,
of course.
Hell no. We're not going to play that game. No, you're going to have to explain. What do you mean that Black Americans were complicit?
Can I talk? Can I speak?
It was not your turn. Go ahead, Passport King. Well,
all right, I'm gonna land with that for now.
I mean, Burkina Faso, what we're saying is there were Africans who were complicit in the slave trade. I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah, but I mean, since you're willing to accept that Black Americans also were complicit in it, but then I'm gonna leave it at that for now.
No, we're not gonna play that game because that could be easily debunked.
Okay, but Dynast agrees with that. So
well,
if he agrees with that,
I mean, we had some of our sellouts on this side as well, but again, we're not. See, I just think when it gets to the slavery talk, a lot of people on the continent don't want to take accountability, which is just weird. Like it's okay,
yeah,
like all right. I mean, it's weird.
Very weird.
Is there any Black Americans?
Hold on, Burkina Faso. You had the Benin Republic made an official apology to the diaspora for the role they played in the slave trade. A country.
Yeah. I mean, because we both know that there's like a lot of like trickery. The history that we know about the transatlantic slave trade was written from the lens of like the oppressor. You get what I'm saying?
Lord, come on.
So most people learn it. So most people learn it from those lenses. Whereas the video I just showed you, I just gave you to play, but then he's showing the full picture of what happened. That's the difference.
Hold on. I'm talking. But even in his video, he said that Africans sold other Africans. He said it in the video.
But it's not the only thing he said. And this is why I like that video.
We know that. We know that. But again, the topic.
Yeah, but you're not putting. But you're not putting all the rest forward. You're just picking choosing one thing.
No, we have been. I was just telling you my submission was partly that. And in fact, the crew did resist
for Africans.
slavery early on.
Okay,
It wasn't
Africans
until-
to lie.
hold on. Kid Ola, you got 30 seconds. I got to pass the passport.
Okay,
King.
for Africans to lie, they start creating excuse. The other guy video you just played, that guy's also crazy also. You see, Africans will not just sit in dock. You see, the Ghana people of Ghana, right, have to infuse other people to help them to fess up their Ashanti, because the Ashanti was attacking them too much, stealing their people for slave trade. How do you think the Zongo people came about? The Hausa people that protect the Ghana people, the other tribes that form into Ghana society. They have to form because the Ghana people were not so as big as the Ashanti at that time. Just well like the Ghana people is, that's where other people is also in other part of Ghana also. The other people in Ghana also who are also going towards Mali to kidnap people also for slave trade, to sell to the Ashanti. So the Ashanti can sell those people for gunpowder and those gun things. The same thing come to Nigeria also. What destroyed the Benin Empire was also a slave business. When the British came directly now to do business with the Benin Empire, the Benin Empire didn't really wanted to do with them like that. You see, the British coming to colonize or finally coming to conquer Africa.
You guys need to make up your mind. You guys need to make up your mind, because at times I hear gunpowder, other times I hear mirror, other times I hear umbrellas.
I got to pass the mic to go ahead, Passport King. Go ahead, Passport King.
Thank you, Dynas. Good evening, gentlemen. First, Dynas, I got to give you your props, because I didn't honestly think he was going to even touch this subject due to it being, even though factual, it's going to hurt a lot of feelings because it's going to bring up the truth. First, let's start with the obvious. With Joy Reid, I didn't catch the very beginning, but I want to talk about Joy Reid, Godfrey, and that milk dud head looking, whatever the hell that ex-NFL player is. Their statements and their attitudes is right there is why Pan-Africanism is dead and will never, whatever, if it once existed, it is done. We cannot have no Pan-Africanism with people that think that way. And they're going to just tell blatant lies about documented history. I'm sure you saw the links I was dropping in the private chat of books by Black scholars, even one African, documenting centuries of slavery in Africa long before the Europeans came. So this narrative that, I want to say his name wrong, it starts with a B, that he's trying to play, and maybe some other ones that, oh, the poor Africans, they was holding hands singing Kumbaya, and one day the white man just showed up with gunpowder and nets and kidnapped their beloved family. That, you know, that's a lot of bovine estimate. We're not going to play those games. You're not going to run that nonsense here. And also, let me touch on something else that I want to say his name wrong. The cat that was speaking, that dropped the Hotep Babel video about the so-called Black Americans' involvement in slavery. First of all, there was no, we're going to say U.S. slavery descendants. We'll use the common term Black American, meaning those who are not Black immigrants. There was no Black Americans that was involved in the transatlantic slave trade. There was not a single documented case of, what do you want to call the ancestors of FBA, ADOS, DOS, Sulan, freedmen owning ships, bringing Africans from Africa to the New World. And that's not something you have to believe. That's documented. It's not a single case. And when people try to point to, oh, well, Black people own slaves in USA. Yes. And you know what that was usually the case of?
In Passport King, that's what I was pointing to, the latter. Go ahead.
And when people talk about, oh, well, Black Americans own slaves in what would become the 13 colonies and later the USA. Yes, that's true. But you know what the nuance is that people overlook? It was people buying their family out of slavery. It wasn't Black plantation owners sitting around. They had a bunch of Black people working on.
There was both, my brother. There was both.
That's garbage. It was basically people buying themselves.
Ask Dynas. Just ask Dynas. Dynas knows.
I have to look that up, but go ahead, Passport King.
It was people mainly buying themselves out of slavery. They managed to, they might have had skills. They might have found a way to siphon certain money. Freed
You're not telling the
men
truth,
because
bro. You're not telling the
hold
truth.
on.
You're
Also,
lying
freed
there.
men was always freed in America. Everyone wasn't slaves. So let's say you had a free man that maybe their relatives got kidnapped, because that is documented case. The book 12 Years a Slave, that's not unlike that trash novel, what's that crap? The Color Purple by that nutcase Alice Walker. 12 Years a Slave is actually based on a real life historic account of a free black man that was kidnapped and forced into slavery. So you have things like that. So what would happen if a free black man was forced into slavery and kidnapped? There's only a couple of options is going to end. Either he stays a slave the rest of his life and dies in captivity, 2, he escapes, or 3, people who love him, family come and they buy his freedom. So that's how, in many cases, of black people owning slaves, they was getting family out of slavery.
You lie, bro. The black slave owners were very brutal to their own slave.
No, you're not gonna cut me
You
off.
lying.
This is
You
the
lying
point.
there.
No, we may
You
I'm
lying.
lying. We may
You
I'm
lying.
lying.
The black slave owners were very brutal.
Go ahead, Pastor King.
No, see, you're not going to run this narrative that there was black people owning plantations and they was having, white overseers or black overseers whipping their fellow black people. No, that nonsense was not going on. That's the narrative they try to spin. It's just like they say in modern times, well, reverse racism exists. Black people can be racist too, which they take the term racism totally out of its context. Black people can be bigoted, can be prejudiced, but we can't be racist if you go by the original definition. But there's one last thing I want to shoehorn in. I find the convenience of this whole narrative.
Hey, you know what? Hold on. Let me. Hey, Passport King is. He might be right. You might be right. So there were a few free blacks that owned plantations, but again, for the most part, they were by their family members.
Thank you. It was not no black people enslaving black people. Hell, Django
I learned otherwise, guys.
Hold on. Django
Unchained. Do me a favor. Put your source in the private chat, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, but you take me on the spot.
Hold on. 12 Years a Slave is your sources. Bro, come on. You got to do better than a movie as your sources. You done mentioned 2 movies.
Wait a minute. Are you kidding? Hold on. Wait a minute. You didn't see all those links I was dropping in the chat?
Okay, well, mention the links that are not movies because it
We're going off a tangent. Go ahead, Passport King.
Wait, those aren't movies. Those are books. Those are documented.
Passport King, I understood what you were talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, but finishing up, don't cut me off. Let me finish my thought. 2 points. 1, Django Unchained is a work of fiction. It's not real events. However, even in that fictitious movie, the reason why Django became a bounty hunter was to earn money to buy his wife out of freedom. So yes, that's a fictitious account, but it's a fictitious account inspired on real events of what many enslaved, then my people, ancestors then called Negroes did for real. They will earn money and buy their relatives out of slavery. That's what was going on. But in modern times, you got disingenuous, dishonest people. They take that and they twist it and they try to make it look like, oh, see, black people own slaves too. And here's the final point I'm going to end before, because I know Diane's want to have the next person speak. I don't know if you mentioned it early, Donis, because I didn't catch the very beginning, but the president of Ghana, he's supposed to be visiting mainly the UN 2 weeks from Tuesday, actually the week after next. He's supposed to be laying some wreath at the national monument at the African burial ground down in Manhattan. And the next day, he's supposed to be speaking at the UN. Now, this is what's so sick about this. These are the people who are descendants. I'm not saying that the president of Ghana is definitely a descendant of slave traders, but it wouldn't shock me if he was. But he's definitely Hold on. Let me finish my thought. These are the people who profited from selling Africans. Now they're coming centuries later and trying to
No,
run a
you're doing the
scam.
same thing.
Hold on. That you
You're
need
drawing
to
the
pay
broad
us.
brush, bro.
You're not even letting me finish my thought. These are
Man,
the
you
people
lying,
who
bro.
sold Africans, and now centuries later, their descendants are coming and trying to run a scam that you need to give us money from stealing our family, where they
You could be the
willingly
descendant of a
was
slave trader.
participants in the slave trade. And I know
You could be a descendant of a slave trader, and I could be
excuse
a
me,
descendant of a slave
I'm an
trader.
FBA. We
No,
not
I'm
we
a
didn't
F.
we hold on
I'm an
hold on
African American.
we was not involved in the
I
slave
could be
trade.
no, but I could.
No,
You and I could be
you very
descendants
well
of
could be the
slave traders
descendant
because we got caught.
You
Because
could be
our
you could be
ancestor got
wearing
caught
lingerie
and
and
sold
eating
into slavery
bonbons
too.
on the bed. I can say
That's
that too.
fact.
How does that sound?
Can I speak after Benjamin Crop, please?
No, it's
No.
Africa's next.
So the fact that the president of Ghana, the descendants of the people that sold slaves, who was implicit, they're not innocent, actively involved in human slavery and trafficking. Now that they're trying to come centuries later to get a bag, you watch what we do. We're going to shut that down, and we're going to have them never utter that there's somehow old reparations again, where they're the criminals involved in human trafficking that
But you have to
destroyed
prove that
and
he
left
was.
trauma
But don't you
across
have to prove that
centuries.
Muhammad was directly, his ancestors were directly involved? Since you're singling him out, don't you have to do the research and say his family were the ones
So you're
involved in it?
saying that the people in Ghana, the various tribes, had no involvement in the slavery in Africa. Is that
Have
what
you
you're
been
saying?
listening
Hold
to
on,
what we've been?
excuse me. You are you saying that right now?
I'm saying, have you been
No.
listening to what we've
Is that
been saying in here? No one has been saying that all Ghanaian,
This is not
all
short term in the parlor.
Akan,
You're not
all.
tap dancing. Is
Well,
either
first
yes
of
or
all
no. Were
Akan
there
were not
tribes
involved in the
in
slave trade.
Ghana involved
All
in slavery?
Akan and Ashanti were
Hold on.
not involved in the slave trade. They
Yes
were
or
not.
no? So you're saying
This
none of
guy
them was
I
came with
involved in
said
hate.
slavery?
This
all
guy
of the
came with hate
Akan,
and go with hate.
all of the
You said,
Ashanti were not the ones who were selling
but they
people into
were involved
slavery.
in slavery.
It was
Okay,
the
so there you
royalty.
go. That's
How
the
big?
answer
How?
So
right there. Anything after that is tap dancing.
Muhammad not even. I don't believe he's a Shanti
Hey,
anyway.
I gotta pass the mic to Africa. Go to Africa. Let me just stop
Yeah, greeting. John Mahama is not Ashanti. He belongs to the Gonja tribe, and he's one of the Gonja tribe are one of the high when it comes to the caste system in Mali, his tribe used to be up there. So passport bro or passport king might be right in some kind of way. Let's just move this topic somewhere. But he's not Ashanti. He's Gonja.
It
First of
don't
all,
matter to him. All
yeah.
Africans
But
were
let's
involved in the slave trade, as far as he's concerned.
okay, yeah. Greetings to everyone. Thank you, Diners. Please like,
See,
share,
hold on, not to
and
cut you off.
subscribe.
See, the game you're trying to play is because
passport.
all
Hey, guy. I passed the mic. Go ahead, Africa.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And please, guys. This is a very important topic. Please, let's give each other time to speak, and also please support the channel. But yeah, first of all, when we talk about slavery, we should separate slavery, into three angles. We have the African slavery that used to go on in the continent. We have the trans-Saharan slavery that used to go on to the east, and then we have the transatlantic slavery. So these are different type of slavery. But if we're talking about the transatlantic slavery today, I think we're looking at a vengeance that came from the downfall of the Ghana Empire, the Almoravid, the conquest of Spain, and the retreat of those people who came back to the continent, and those Europeans, the Portuguese and the Spanish, like people like Alfonso the Great. Let's be honest, these are the guys that send people back to the land and chase us back and basically trying to strike back. Slavery is an old game. Let's not make this. First of all, I'm a Fulani. You know, I can guarantee you my tribe, was involved in trans-Sahara slave trade and also transatlantic slave trade, and also they were a victim of transatlantic slave trade and also trans-Sahara slave trade. Let's not, sugarcoat anything here, because there are people that actually been, victim of this, thing, and it's still there in their hearts, their mind, and their soul, and they're still living this every day. We should try and reconcile. instead of trying to sugarcoat because it's just adding more into the wound. Okay. So yeah, transatlantic slavery. You know, it was mainly coastal tribes who actually, was in cahoots with, those that retreated, were more pro, Christian and in the coast. They worked with the kings. Okay, Ola was right there. Ola was right in the African concept of the transatlantic slavery. You tend to know a bit more because those kings in the region, they were the one that working with the Portuguese because they thought there was a good trader. But at the same time, there was trading slaves. There's no doubt about it. And the Ashanti, for example, the Ashanti used to raid, slaves and sell them to the to this Hausa and the other tribes in the middle in the inner land of Africa, way before the transatlantic slave trade. The Fulani and the Mandinka and the Soninka, they used to be involved in slave trade also. And they used to, at the time of the Mali Empire, they used to see, other tribe as a lower caste because they used to be the higher class in the Mali Empire, and because there was a caste system. And even Muhammad tribe, the Gonja, he belonged to a higher class tribe in the Mali because they were the scholars. Okay, so this was a phenomenon in the UK. We have the Irish. Okay, the
But
Irish
Africa, I have a
really.
question for you.
Can I
I have
finish?
a question for you.
Yeah, let me finish. Can I ask you a question? Okay, we have the Irish here. Okay, the Irish, were enslaved by the English before even they went to Africa. So it was a global phenomenon. But to say that Africans, wasn't involved in slavery, or it was an accident, or it was because the white man was more powerful than the black man, that's how they came about. That's a lie. That's just minimizing the thing. Let's stop insulting people's intelligence here,
Thank you.
for God's sake. Okay. So
All
so
right.
over
So
the
my
years,
question.
yeah, yeah, make it quick because now you interrupt me.
That's your question, bro. All right. I guess wrap it up, bro.
Oh dear. This is a problem, isn't it? When you start speaking the facts, some people don't like it. They would like to interrupt you. Speak. Over
No,
you.
so
So
sorry. Okay, sorry.
uh,
Yeah. So you said we're here to insult your intelligence. So then, how is it that they found the handwritten letter of the Pope? Okay, clearly stating the crime. Actually, the bad thing he did.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Second thing,
Kenny, we're not denying that the Catholic Church and the Pope weren't involved. Okay, no one's denying that.
Africa is. Maybe not
oh
you,
my
but
God.
Africa. You said we're insulting his intelligence.
Africa. Do you deny that the Catholic Church was involved in the slave trade?
No, I did not at all. But
Yeah. I don't
how did you
know
know?
where Kenny Bay got that from.
No,
Can I go?
because
Can I go
he
next?
said we insulted his intelligence.
Can I go
Yeah,
next,
you
please?
are by.
Go ahead, Africa. You got a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that is, we know the evidence is there. Africans were involved in slavery. They were slaving each other. They was involved in transatlantic slavery, trans-Sahara slavery. We this the problem, the self-hate and the problem that we have in the continent. It haven't stopped. It's still going on. Okay, let's not fool ourselves here. Don't listen to these people who are actually coming here trying to make it look like their tribe was less, involved in the slave trade than the other tribe. It doesn't work. Don't believe it. I'll pass it back, Dennis. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Prince. So Prince.
Yeah, what's up? What's up? It's a Quincy. What's happening, bro? Salute to Dinus. Salute to the chat. Salute to everybody. Like the live. Basically, I salute you for the conversation and the topic. But I personally feel that a lot of us, the main issue is that we utilize the word African, and the word African is very modern and common today, post-slavery, post-colonization, and because of that, it triggers certain people, both the African Americans and Africans. When you say Africans sold Africans, because it's more nuanced than that. It was different tribes, different regions, different people. Some people were defending their own people and retaliating against other tribes that were aggressor tribes, but they're grouped as aggressor tribes, like people from Benin, Oyo, certain Fulas as well. Certain Fulas were victims, certain Fulas were aggressors. They're all grouped in as one, under the umbrella of African sold Africans, when the reality was certain tribes were protecting their own people from aggressive tribes that were selling their people. So I think that when you utilize terms like African sold Africans, it creates a confusion because it's more nuanced than that. The same way in America, the different tribes and different people that were fighting over there for whatever reason, whether they were trying to protect their own people or they were the aggressors trying to expand their empire. When they came over here, some of them became more so one people. That's why when the guy Benjamin Crump, I don't know his real name, with the mush mouth, when he was talking about African Americans are not complicit and this and the third, there's no connection. There's a clear cut connection because even when you look at history, there's examples of people who knew how to write that got freedom, people that was associated with certain kingdoms that got freedom here in America and in the Caribbean. There were examples of certain people who had more liberties due to their intelligence levels of, okay, you know how to farm certain things, you know how to bookkeep, you know how to play the fiddle and certain instruments. These guys had more liberties and freedoms, and that was sometimes tied to their empires and tribes. So it's very nuanced on both sides, and I think that sometimes when you just simplify it to Africans selling Africans, it doesn't paint the full picture of what was going on because certain tribes were clear cut allies of the whites, while certain tribes weren't. They were protecting themselves from the whites. I always say this, and I believe it, is that Pan-Africanism started in Africa. You know what I mean? But that's my main point. I feel like the problem is a lot of us are trying to. I think with the brother from Burkina Faso, he's probably frustrated at the concept of Africans selling Africans. Not that the Africans, certain Africans were complicit. When you utilize words like Africans sold Africans, that's not the full reality. But when you say certain Africans were complicit, absolutely,
Prince,
nobody's going to argue that.
Prince. That's what I've been saying the whole time. I said some Africans were complicit, not all. I've been saying that.
Yeah, nobody can argue that. But when you try to make it seem like I think sometimes you go back and forth between the two terminologies, and I think that's when he probably heard.
Between what two terminologies?
One time you're saying African sold African, and then certain times you're saying Africans are complicit, which is two different things.
I've always said some Africans were complicit, some tribes were complicit. Some. I
understand what you mean, Dynamic.
Yeah, nobody can argue with that. It's only an idea that nobody can argue.
I understand what Dynamic means anyway. It was easy to understand what he meant.
It wasn't a contradiction to say that some Africans were complicit and Africans sold Africans. But anyway,
Prince, you got 45 seconds. I got to pass it to Jai.
I'm gonna pass it off to whoever. But the point is that the term African is a modern term. The same way the term European is like a more modern term. Like if you go back 100 years, 300 years ago, pre-colonization, pre-slavery, the common person was going by tribes. Even today, America's only made up of 5% or 6 or 10% of the world. The majority of the world still goes by tribes in China, in India, in Europe, and Africa. That's my main point. But I'll pass the mic.
All right, go ahead, GD. I can't pronounce your name. Jai, go ahead.
Yeah, you can call me GD. Or Jai, that's fine.
GD, go ahead.
Oh, GD. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Greetings to everyone. Yeah, it's a very
welcome, GD. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a very intelligent panel. I like this conversation. So I think it's more I think there was actually an agreement between principle and dynasty. Like, yeah, I think that agreement is where I will continue from. I think it's actually wrong. It's very wrong, and I would say people tend to take it out of context by saying that Africans enslaved other Africans. I think it's when people see, just like saying, I don't know which example I can use, but basically the point is that statement is not totally true. It's an half truth. It is not a full truth. So I do not think that statement is valid if that's the case, because there are many contexts to that statement. So this is what I'm trying to say. So during the slave trade, right, the Europeans, the transatlantic slave trade wouldn't have happened without the orchestration of the Europeans. I believe we all agree on that. That the transatlantic slave wouldn't have been possible without the Europeans orchestrating it. I believe we all agree on that. Okay, good. So if that's the case, then that means for Europeans to have collaborated with some Africans, my first question is, could there have been some coercion with some tribes? Because Europeans, the way they seek to dominate other groups, the way they seek to exploit other groups, is through
In war.
violence, right? It's through violence, it's through coercion. Now, I mean, Africa is very diverse, and that slave trade happened across different kingdoms. And every kingdom where the transatlantic slave trade happened, there were different contexts to it. But I'm from the Yoruba tribe, and I can talk about the Yoruba tribe, and this is going to be a general narration of what happened. So in the Yoruba community, just like in many African communities, you always have bad eggs. And in a lot of these kingdoms, during the period of the Oyo Empire, or during the period of the Oyo Empire in Ile-Ife at that time, you know, you always have bad eggs, people that are corrupt, people that do bad things, criminals and all that. But they don't go to jail. Rather, they are banished from the community. They banish them. These people, when they are banished, they are isolated. It happened in many parts of the African community where a lot of these people that were banished collaborated with Europeans to then come into their community to either fight wars or to capture their own people. There are many stories like that. Even the Igbo, a lot of the Igbos were also victims of the transatlantic slave trade by some of these people I'm talking about. They come into their kingdom and they actually enslave their own people. At the same time, a lot of those people that were also involved in capturing their own people, we can call them traitors, right? They are traitors. They are also captured by other ethnic groups as well. Another thing we need to understand is that, like I said, it's very complex because every kingdom is different. Every community that this happened, the story is different, right? So, like, there are some communities where they were living peacefully. There were no wars. Then the Europeans would come, they will bombard them, they would storm them with violence and say that the only way there will be peace in that land will be for them to go and enslave other tribes. So that option is, they don't have any other option. They have to go and enslave other tribes, right? Now, I was talking about, I'm just going to two different places. But the point I'm making is, like, if you look at the Yorubas, they were heavily involved in the slave trade because eventually, the traitors eventually became kings. A lot of those traitors, they became kings. And as a result of that, the Oyo Empire thrived with the slave trade. Later on, the Oyo Empire itself became victims of the slave trade. The people they enslaved, the Dayome, the kingdom of Dayome, were the victims of the slave trade by the Oyo Empire. They kidnapped and stole the people of Dayome. The people of Dayome eventually rebelled against the Oyo Empire because during the infighting in the Oyo Empire, there was a lot of
Amen.
Right?
Amen. True.
The people of Dayome then enslaved the Yoruba people. So if you look at it that way, definitely, if you look at a lot of, like I said, I'm not going to, this is a speculation. But the point is, a lot of people that are Afro-descendants of slaves, not all of them, I cannot quantify the percentage, but I can say from documented history that there are a significant number of people that are descendants of Africans that were enslaved that can also trace their story back to what I'm saying, that they were not just victims, they could also have been, their ancestors could have also been collaborators. At the same time, even the Africans that are in Africa, that are African descendants in Africa, they were also devastated by that slave trade. Because what happened was that when a lot of people were kidnapped, families were destroyed, families were separated, and that trauma is still there in Africa. In fact, there are even some tribes that cannot even see eye to eye because of the legacy of the slave trade, right? You know, if you look at the Benin Kingdom, so the same thing. Benin, the Benin Empire, one of the most powerful empires in West Africa, they were also involved in that slave trade. Later, they were victims. In fact, one of the ways in which the Benin Empire had to stop that slave trade was to say, oh, we need to protect ourselves from invading forces that are kidnapping our people. So they signed a treaty with the Portuguese Empire so that the Portuguese would protect them. The Portuguese that they were collaborating to enslave other people, they collaborated with them, signed treaties with them, so that the Portuguese would protect them against invading forces and the British. Eventually, the British sold them out, and the British came and, I mean, we know the rest of the history. But the Benin Kingdom was eventually colonized and conquered by the British. But the point I'm making is that I think it is more complicated. In fact, in addition to this, my point, another thing we need to understand is there are documented slaves. I can't remember the name of one of the most popular. He was a Muslim slave. I can't remember his name. I think it was from Mali or Burkina Faso or Senegal.
It's a fuller guy, Diallo.
Diallo,
Fuller
yeah.
guy.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
he's the
much.
one that helped. He's the one that helped build Georgetown in Washington, right? He freed himself, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, he was one of the most educated slaves, and he documented a lot of. He had a lot of write-ups about what happened. You know, he was one of those that were victims of the slave trade, and he even went back to Africa and still played a role in enslaving his own people.
Oh no, okay, I'm talking about a different one. Yeah, he's another one. But the Diallo, the one that freed himself, he stayed in America. He refused to return, and he was a Muslim.
Jetty, you're talking about Seriki Abbas.
I can't remember his name now, but I know he's not from Nigeria. He's from the US. I can't remember. I wish I knew his name. I can send it on the chat. Maybe after I finish talking, I will check online and send it on the chat. He's a very popular figure. It was documented that this man, he actually was a victim of the slave trade. He collaborated. They captured him. That's why after they captured him, they realized this guy was so intelligent. They gave him his freedom on the condition that he will go back to Africa and collaborate with the middlemen that were involved to enslave other Africans. So this is how Europeans played a lot of Africans.
I don't know. Yeah, Jetty, you need to put a link or some type of source for that. As far as
I mean, thank you, Diana.
He's talking about Yassin Bey.
I don't know about the only one I know about who was a fuller guy. He was a Muslim, and he's one that helped fund Georgetown in Washington today. And he was freed as a slave, and he actually paid, as you know, as Dan was saying earlier, and Passport King, that some of the slaves actually bought themselves and their family out of slavery. And
but then let Jetty finish. Go ahead, Jetty.
Yeah, I'm almost done. I was just going to say that, you see, another thing I want everyone to know is that during that time, unfortunately and sadly enough, Africans at that time did not see other Africans as their own. They didn't see other Africans. Like a Yoruba person would see another person. Maybe within the Yoruba themselves, you had like different like sub-tribes, right? You had the Egun, you had the Egun people, you had the people of
Nago.
You had all these different sub-tribes. They're the same people. But the point I'm making is that they didn't even see themselves as Africans, the way we see ourselves as Africans, right? They didn't see themselves that way. And the people that were less victims of the slave trade, that did not collaborate, that were involved with the Europeans, they paid heavy price to ensure they did not enslave their own people. And one of the major examples is Queen Mzinga. Queen Mzinga paid the price. She fought the Portuguese to stand still. Like they forced her, they did everything to force her to be involved, but she did everything to fight them. Now, everything is still reflected to what's going on even right now with global politics. Like, look at what's going on even right now. Look at all these countries, right? Look at Burkina Faso, AES. They are fighting them, right? And you have a lot of these so-called countries, like where I'm from, unfortunately, I hate to talk about this, but Nigeria, for crying out loud, we have a puppet in power that is being blackmailed to sell his people. You understand what I'm saying? So that history is still going on because we need to understand this history, that we have traitors among us, and it is not unique to Africans. It's all over the world. You know, there are traitors everywhere. In Iran, there are traitors. But what you have is that in Iran, the people that are running Iran, the powers that are running Iran are not the traitors that are running Iran. But they have traitors everywhere in the world. The only problem we have in Africa is that we've always had traitors, and those traitors are the ones in power. And it is those traitors that sold us. Some of them became victims, and we are still willing to collaborate. That is the point. I'll just stop there for everyone to react to what I've said. Thank you so much.
Let me know when I can add something, Dinas. Let me know when I'm in.
Go ahead, Invisible Man.
Okay, so I want to speak as a part of an African. Bambara, Dogon, Fula, Mende, my tribes. And I will say this. First of all, going back to the video, when he said that the Europeans came in and kidnapped other Africans and took them back, or people from the tribes took them back so that they could then jump in and help with the trade. One, in the book that I mentioned before, of an author, a professor from Sierra Leone at a university, he states that the chiefs' families married into some of the European slave traders. That is how they
That's true.
became, okay?
Yeah.
So the kidnapping, maybe it happened, but the chiefs themselves then, after they married in, sent their kids to be educated in Europe. Secondly, I will agree with Passport. If a Ghanaian president, and I would ask who he wants reparations from, because I brought this up the last time I was on the panel on the day that he introduced that to the UN. If he's asking for reparations, who is he asking reparations from? Because I agree with Passport King. There is no way that African country, I don't care if the president was involved or not involved, asking for reparations when the tribe.
Ghana's not asking for reparations from the United States.
Hold on. Well, that's
just
what.
to clear that up, it's not.
Okay,
They're not asking reparations from the United States.
Who are they asking from?
In that,
Can
I say one quick thing after you finish?
I'm answering them. I'm answering them. They have been
not
meeting.
you.
They have been meeting in the United Nations for 15 years around a global reparations, but Ghana is asking for reparations from the United Kingdom.
Okay.
And also,
right,
sir, very quick one. While you mention reparation, just bear in mind the Manding people and the Fula people have done a lot in terms of helping the repatriation. Like the land is called Sierra Leone and Liberia today. It's thank God to these people who actually made the land available for slaves to come back to Sierra Leone and Liberia today. So we do love our Africans in the diaspora. We have always bear them in mind. So just to let you know, we have done our bit, but I'm sure there's a bit more we can. There's a bit more. No, that's what I said. Black in the diaspora.
I know what you mean, though, but you gotta.
But I mean, Africa, but I don't. I mean, the present day Freetown is Timney. I don't think they're part of the Mande people. And then when you're dealing with Liberia, I don't know which. I mean, there's some Mende in Liberia, but as far as Monrovia, I don't know what
I gotta go, guys. It was a pleasure.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Invisible Man. Go ahead, Invisible Man.
Yeah, but the Timney Amane people, remember that? Yeah.
Now
I don't think the Mende are, but I don't think the Timney are. The Timney aren't.
No, the Timney are part of the Mane people. They all came from that region.
I don't know, man. I don't know. But go ahead. I know the Mende are. But
I will finally say that as an African from the Isan, Ibibo, Igbo, Idoma, Yoruba, Mumuye tribes.
Come on.
I am reading off of my ancestry. Bro, come on.
Okay.
So my statement is this, right? In the voice of Kendrick Lamar, we have so many different tribes running through American blacks that we did go through a change. Whatever you want to say that makes us different from the Africans that are on the continent. Because as I said before, I got 11 countries, and I've only read off 2 ethnic groups from Mali and Nigeria. And of those, that's 12 tribes that run through my veins. All right. So you can say, come on, bro, all you want.
I'm just saying you got to learn how to pronounce their names if they on your DNA chart. Come on, you can do better than
American.
that.
I'm not.
Let us speak, man. Let us speak.
I'm American too.
All right. Well, who the hell are you?
I'm just encouraging you, brother, to learn the thing. Go ahead, bro.
So that's what I wanted to basically say, that American blacks are so different because of the fact that we belong to the tribes that sold and did not sell. And we cannot distinguish from that. And I'll go back to what Passport King said, whether you want to agree or disagree. I still find it, because American blacks should be getting reparations from the United States, England, and those African countries that participated in. And I'll leave it there.
Can I ask you a question, brother?
Yeah.
Can I make a
One,
submission?
one second, very quick,
And that's
Dynasty.
Can I can I make a
Yeah,
submission?
sorry. No,
facts.
I think
one
it's
second. Dynasty.
no, not
The
one
reason
second.
we call it
Not one
breakdown
second.
today
I've been waiting
is
for it to come back around to me.
I haven't spoken
oh
yet.
Yeah, but I got
oh,
two people I got to talk. I got anti-moralist. Go ahead, anti-moralist. Then I got Pastor
Okay.
John.
okay.
So first, nuance matters, of course. So I'm from East Africa, so I'm not actively involved in this. I can't speak for everybody. I'm just gonna go with, because I've been researching this topic for quite a while, and I know that nuance is something that is going to die. But the idea is that when we say Africans sold Africans to slavery and we don't explain the nuance, what's the difference from me saying, well, African Americans brought slaves, so I don't really need to care about the nuance? Because the nuance matters. Why did they buy their slaves? You said it's because of their families. Then we have to make a distinction. That's why when we say Africans sold Africans to slaves, I'm not saying you said this, Cyrus, but somebody here made a claim that that's the same thing, that it's okay to generalize. And I'm saying, well, it's not. That's the first thing I'm saying.
Right, and we corrected him too and said that we've been
Yes.
talking about nuances, and he's just overlooking all the
Yeah, I know.
conversation we've been talking about nuances.
I know. And let me add more nuance. So first, it is true that some Africans were captured, and before reaching the coast, and the European traders usually did not march deep in the inlands. That's true. There were kingdoms, merchants, and war leaders. They were not just societies. Okay, they weren't modern day countries. For example, Ghana today is not the Ghana kingdom back then. That's not even in the same area. So these are the people who supplied captives. You have to know exactly what. Once like European plantations in America began demanding like massive labor force in like the 1500s to 1700s, give or take, they like economy around the slave trade became like an industrial scale demand for enslaved labor that had never existed before anywhere on earth. That's one of the things that makes the transatlantic slave trade completely different from other forms of slavery, the scale of it. Okay. Europeans brought firearms, metal goods, alcohol, textiles, all these things, and then traded them for captives. That trade reshaped the entire African politics. And at that time, they were not Africans. They were just different tribes, different groups, different nations, and the way they describe themselves. Now, these states, they participated, they gained weapon, and they mostly took their neighbors. They didn't. When we say they sold their own people, you have to first agree. Did they see themselves as the same people? Most of them did not see themselves as the same people. They say these are not. It's like the same way the Irish were not. They are not the same as the British. That's how they saw themselves. Very different. So the key issue here is that what the slave trade changed the incentives inside of these states. That's the first thing I want to say. But other states did resist it, and they restricted it and tried to even shut it down. Somebody mentioned those examples, but I'm going to try to mention some of them, and if I repeat them, just correct me. But in, like, for example, I think the Kingdom of Congo, which is in the current day Angola and DRC, King Afonso spent years writing letters to the Portuguese, okay? In the 1500s, he was complaining to the Portuguese, your traders are kidnapping my people, destabilizing my kingdom, and he repeatedly asked them to stop controlling. The slave trade was uncontrollable at the time, and by the Portuguese didn't agree. Despite his protest, the merchants continued, and that expansion of the Portuguese slave trade, for example, destabilized the entire kingdom. Another example is the Kingdom of Ndongo in Angola, which is during like the 1600s. Somebody mentioned it. Queen Nzinga, Nyinga Mbande, fought a long war against the Portuguese, partly mostly over the slave trade. The Portuguese attempted to dominate their region. In the colonial wars in Angola, that's why most of the people from the Brazilian slave trade, for example, they're mostly from Angola. That's literally one of the way it happened. So Queen Nzinga fought against it. In like Senegambia, the upper Guinea Coast area, there was some Islamic states and communities that attempted to restrict the enslavement of Muslims specifically, which created political conflicts over these kind of areas. And another example, I think, is like of course there are people who did did benefit from it, but the biggest one was the Gold Coast and the Dahomey area. They became the most powerful slave trading kingdom, using mostly war captives to supply European markets. In the 1700s, they were basically even though their politics were divided and all that stuff, the internal fraction, they are the ones who benefited the most from the slave trade, if I remember correctly. Of course, there were abolitionist responses later, especially in the 1800s. The Sokoto Caliphate, for example, they tried to restrict the export of enslaved Muslims, for example. Other African societies tried to also
fight against it. And they did have, by the way, they did have slavery of their own form. But again, African societies had a different form of servitude and slavery before the Atlantic system. That's why I say the Atlantic system was completely different compared to
And it was okay to sell non-Muslims in
yes,
for
yes,
the Transatlantic.
and yes, it was. That's the thing. So you see how the nuance it changes completely. And I can even talk about the East African one, but that one's gonna be very complicated. So I'll go and say that one also happened. But I've also noticed, even though I'm from East Africa, there was Tipo Tip. Somebody mentioned him. Yes, he benefited from the slave trade, and he was an African. But I've also noticed in East Africa, at least we don't. I don't know if it's not like a thing, but it's just not something that they talk about often because I think I'll go to the details, but it's basically during the Zanzibar revolution. Sometimes some people they call it the Zanzibar genocide. Basically, one of the things if you've noticed, the East African slave trade, usually the Omani Caliphate moved the entire region into Zanzibar, modern day Zanzibar. They moved their capital, into modern day Zanzibar. So basically, during that, there was a lot of what's it called? There was basically the people from there were Arabs and then there were South Asians as well, like Indians, Persians, and stuff like that. They were mostly in the area and they were the bigger class at the time. Now, during the Zanzibar Revolution, because of that, slavery was still happening. Even though the British did stop it, they introduced another form, but I'll talk about them later. But when it came to the Zanzibar Revolution at the time, the reason most of the people there were mixed and they didn't have to leave the region, they were still in the area where it happened. So that's why they were easier integrated. During the Zanzibar Revolution, there were about 10,000 to 20,000 people killed. Most of them were Arabs, Omani specifically, and South Asians. So the way, at least that we see it, is that it's not that we just say we don't want reparations, but it's more like we don't argue it, I guess, because they did see, at least the way I've been explained to it by my grandparents, for example, is that they kind of had it coming, and none of them. That's what they call a revolution, even though some people call it a genocide. We don't call it a genocide. We say it's a revolution. That's what you get for after doing all of that stuff. So, point of saying is, of course, it is a complicated situation, and I think to deny that it didn't happen is, hypocritical. But to act like there's no nuance and act that all Africans and all that stuff, all Africans did participate in the slave trade. And I'm like, that's where the disingenuous starts. Because if we apply that disingenuous in other things like the Americas, that black people did also participate in buying slaves, I think that'll be disingenuous. And people will try to act like that's not disingenuous are part of the problem. And I can provide my sources to show you exactly how these slave trades happen, because I've been studying this for quite a while. And this is not as easy as topic of like, these people are bad. And also, the biggest contributor to this entire thing was mostly the Europeans. It doesn't take away the blame. And I don't think it's hypocritical for the Ghanaian to ask for reparations, especially since they're asking for specifically from the United Kingdom, not asking from the United States.
Can I piggyback on that point, please?
Let me just 1 second, please.
No. I got to pass it to Jagoon. I got a question for Anthony. Anthony moral is where the actual slaves that were taken from Ghana, where did they end up? So that's why I just so if Ghana gets that money, where is it going to actually go?
That's the thing.
Or whatever. That's what I'm saying. It's just that's the question I have. Like those slaves who were sold, where did they go? So if he's asking for reparations, like
for colonization, not for slavery per se, but also, for the depopulation of the people, that's part of it. But it's also the colonization that happened after the people were taken, and that was finished.
The colonization of the African people during the colonial.
Yeah, they made them work the plantation.
I'm reading this right now. Ghana submit UN resolution on slavery reparations.
Just what I've provided all the evidence that I made about the fact that like there were some people that were victims of the slave trade, but they also collaborated when they were free. Right. But people can go check and read more about that. I can
but I'm just saying, if let me pass it to Jagoon as I read this article. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Thank,
Jacqueline.
thank you very much. As you pass it on and you're reading, I hope you're listening as well. I would like to use my time to speak on a few things. And I do thank the last speaker for his clarity and his knowledge, as far as I'm concerned, on the slave trade that happened right across the African continent. I've been listening to the subject matter for some time, and it is very interesting. I would like to take debate, not just to actually debate, I would like to correct both Jide and Africa, for clarity's sake, and not to lie or mislead. Jide first. Jide, how are you?
Oh, Jagu, I'm good. How you doing?
Very
I'm
good.
fine.
Very good. Now, I would like to begin by saying the Oyo Empire had vassalship over many African ethnicities. The Dahomey was probably number one. We held the Ga. They're very much like Yorubas. We held the Ewe. They're very much like Yorubas. We have a lot in common. So too the Dahomey, who are the Fon. Now, because the Fon were paying a vassalship to Oyo Empire, this was done for hundreds of years before any European came to our shores. And because of this history, the Dahomey came into power because of the slave trade and because they were able to revolt. Not that we enslaved them. We never enslaved them. They paid titleship to Oyo Empire. That is the correction I need for yourself.
But you
Secondly,
also raided them, though. You used to raid those people from those regions. Oyo.
no,
In the
no.
oral history,
My friend.
in the oral history in
Wait,
Haiti, you
you're
guys used to
disturbing me. And
raid those.
wait, my friend, you can speak after me. You're disturbing me, and I know what you're talking about, but that's not the real history. Let me continue. Africa. You keep on this thing where you are boasting about Sierra Leone and Liberia. I'm thankful that Dinus put some correction in you. You've also made mention of the Sierra Leone and Liberia are the Maroons of Jamaica. They are not the Maroons of Jamaica.
From
The
Jamaica,
Maroons,
from
wait, let me
Caribbean,
finish, please.
from
You've got to
Canada,
let me finish. You've got to let me finish.
from Canada and the Caribbean. Come on, go
You've
on
got to
then.
let me finish, my friend. I didn't disturb you at all. The main ethnicities that are the Maroons of Jamaica are of the Ghanaian entities. You can see Aponfong. These are names that are strictly Ghanaian, Ashanti. Strictly. I don't know where you get your boasting from. The second thing, the Sierra Leone and Liberia, they are British projects. British and Western projects. They are not African. Nobody asked any Sierra Leonean or
Liberia was a dumping ground. It wasn't a project.
well, fair enough.
Don't
Fair
listen
enough.
to
It
him,
was a
guys.
dumping ground. Wait. It was a dumping ground based on the overflow, if you like, of returnees and returnee slaves. And
It was a dumping ground because after you had what are we gonna do with these slaves? Well, shit, let's just send
exactly.
my dad would send them to
Exactly.
Africa.
What I'm saying is that
it wasn't an overflow. It was a dumping ground.
Okay. We can use
and because we allowed them
what I'm saying that they
allow
were
it to
not.
happen.
Wait, they were not African mindsets. They were from the Western European entity. Sierra Leone is a creation. It's not a creation of any African. It's a creation of Britain. So whatever happened there, you lay on line with the British, not with any African that was there. Don't be silly. Don't be gaslight. You're gaslighting us here, which is very wrong because this subject is very nuanced.
I know what you're doing. I know
As
what
the
you're doing. Just
wait. Let me just finish. If you know what I'm doing, let me finish. You could say whatever rubbish you wish to say afterwards, because you know you contain a lot of rubbish. At the end of the day, the last speaker had clarity to what he was saying, and I think that is the kind of digest that we need. These things are nuanced. We can't accept any African country as an entity of the African apart from Ethiopia? Apart from Ethiopia, there isn't one. So all that pretense that you're talking.
Okay, expand on when you say apart from Ethiopia, what do you mean?
What I mean is Ethiopia and the Ethiopian people have fought many battles to have their nation, whereas the other African countries, filled with many different ethnicities, the creation of Nigeria, for example,
and Sierra Leone
the
Maroon
creation
from
of
Jamaica.
Nigeria,
Stop
for
making up
example.
crap, bro. You just an idiot, man.
Dennis, why are you allowing this?
I'm from Jamaica.
Hold on, Africa, don't interrupt. I'm just trying. Go ahead, Jagoon. I'm trying to figure out.
But they're from Jamaica. I'm not lying. I'm not lying.
Jagoon.
He's an idiot.
Jagoon, the Maroons.
There we go. I didn't call you an idiot, but carry on. Carry on with your
Maroons the Maroons are from Jamaica, Jagoon. But go ahead.
You know I'm better than you at all levels. Stop.
But Jagoon, you were wrong. Maroons were definitely from Jamaica. But go ahead.
No, I'm not saying that. You see, the word maroon maroon means separated, to be marooned, as it were. That's it has a connotation. Okay, now I'm saying that those people. Wait, let me finish. Please.
No, Jagoon, were they from Jamaica or not?
No, they're not. There are Maroons in Brazil, for example. There are Maroons.
Jagoon, the Maroons that went to Freetown, that were settled in Freetown, were they from Jamaica or not?
The Maroons that settled in Freetown. Oh, you're talking about, yes, I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Okay, so
what I'm saying, Dennis, listen, Dennis.
Go ahead.
The in Jamaica were made up of many ethnicities. Don't get me wrong. However, the main Maroons in Jamaica were of Ghanaian, Ashanti, Bantu extract.
So Jagoon, let me interrupt. This is where you're being disingenuous. So for some reason, you're saying that the Maroons from Jamaica who returned to Sierra Leone were still African.
Not those who returned. Not those who returned.
Yeah, what are you talking about, Jagoon?
I'm talking about. Listen, Diners. Listen. Use your ears and not your mouth if you want to listen. The Maroons in Jamaica.
Okay.
Dennis, kick this fool out, man. Kick him out.
No, he's saying that the Maroons in Jamaica were primarily from Ghana. That's what he's saying.
It's simple.
Hold on. Okay, Jagoon. So the Maroons that came to Freetown from Jamaica.
That's not what I'm saying, Dennis. That's not what I'm saying.
That's what you said.
So why were you arguing with Africa then?
No, because he says that the Maroons in Jamaica. He says Maroons in Jamaica were mainly from Sierra Leone.
That's not what he said.
No, not today. He didn't say it today. He said it a long time ago, and he keeps repeating it. He didn't say it today. I'm not saying he said it today.
I feel sorry.
Let me finish, because I haven't. You guys have disturbed me such that I haven't fully made my point.
You messed his train of thought up. But I thought he was just saying that the Maroons came from majority of Maroons in Jamaica.
Jagoon, you confused me. So, Jagoon, I'm gonna let you finish. So we're agreeing that the Maroons that were in Freetown, that settled in Freetown, came from Jamaica. Yes or no?
Correct, and absolutely a different point than I was making.
Go to sleep then, dickhead.
Shut up, you idiot. Just be quiet.
Go ahead, Jagoon.
Foolish man. Foolish boy. Let me continue. Let me continue. It was also.
Don't interrupt. Go ahead.
It's also been said. It's also been that small boy with small penis. It's also been said.
Man,
I'm sorry. This, if someone's trying to figure me, I'm going to figure them. It's also been said that this is nuance, and Africans are involved in slavery in one way or the other. I'll tell you a personal story. My great uncle is a forester. He used to cut a lot of timber back in the day, and I was also always interested in timber. When I was a young boy going back to Nigeria, the way from Lagos back to my village, which is, I don't know, about 50, 100 miles, 150 miles, I don't know what it is. The road was teemed with forestry, thick forest, timber, big. Today, it is not the same. That when I was young, it told me that there is no way the Europeans could have entered this land without the support of an African. No way. They couldn't even get into that land. It was so thick. In fact, the Niger Congo, if that was one, and it was one back in the day, it would be bigger than the Amazon that we know is the biggest forestry in the world. So these are physical sort of interruptions to the success of the slave trade by the European. And we have to factor this in, that the terrain was impossible for the British. In fact, Nigeria and parts of Benin were called the land of the white man's death. That's what it was called, based on the amount of white people that would die from malaria and all other tropical diseases because they couldn't cope. They couldn't cope with that kind of terrain. So all I'm saying is I'm adding these things and I'm trying to allow us to be straight. I was not saying at all that Freetown didn't contain Maroons from wherever they came from. I'm not saying that Freetown did not entertain, if you like, the cutting of slaves before they were even trafficked. As they were taken from Nigeria, the British ships would waylay these slave ships and return them to Sierra Leone. These are facts. I'm not complaining about that. I'm saying that the Maroons in Jamaica were largely of Ghanaian extract. Simple. I don't know why that confused you, Dinas. As I said to you, you should listen whilst you're reading.
Even in the chat, they're saying you're contradicting yourself again.
Fair enough. They can say what they want. Do I care about them? Do I care about them? Mostly those people.
Hold on, I'm the host. So from what me and Africa thought you said was that the
no. Speak for yourself. Don't speak for him. If you speak for him, you will confuse the whole thing.
They weren't from Jamaica. That's what I.
Okay, you were confused, but you now know.
We're not. We're on the same page now. But okay, go ahead.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
May I go next?
Yeah, I'm also Dinas. When I said the term they are part of the man, it's because before they came to Sierra Leone, they already mixed with the Baga and the Bulong.
There we go. There we go.
That's the reason why. Yeah, but that's fine.
I don't know about that one. I don't know about.
He's got pseudo history up the bum.
The Camara, the Bangura, the Bangura, they all it's all Bulong last names. So anyone that got that name, they have Bulong or Baga bloodline. But yeah, that's fine.
The show that Dinas got this little part of the interview.
And Loco also Dinas Loco. But yeah,
the show that Joy Reid was on was with Godfrey the comedian and another brother whose name I don't know. I'm going to try to remember.
Akbar.
Okay, Akbar. Yeah. So Godfrey did say that Africans were complicit. Joy Reid said, but then she made the point of, but then why were there the dungeons if Africans were doing all this selling? I don't think she meant that it was no complicitness happening. I think she was making a point that most of it was by force. So that's one thing to be said. The African American brother that came in here earlier, which I wanted to respond to, that was about an hour ago, was talking about the comments that were being made, and that that Pan-Africanism, he lumped it into Pan-Africanism, and that it was the statements they made was egregious, it was terrible, and all this stuff. But actually, I find that Godfrey grew up in this country among African Americans, and he's very informed about the history and the arguments and stuff that are ongoing with us. The other brother, Akbar, less so. And Joy Reid is pretty educated herself. She had some very nuanced things to say. She made the point about that African American chattel slavery is different than any other type of slavery. That and as a result of that, the genesis that we went through forged the kind of spirit of resistance that we have. And these things came out of it. So yeah, because we're cut off totally and completely in a lot of ways, but they could never cut us totally out of our history and our culture, right? So there were
real quick about what you said.
Well, can I finish?
You didn't finish.
God,
He's speaking well. Why are you disturbing? What's wrong with everybody on this?
Oh,
You're
you
breaking my
shut up,
chain of
Declan,
thought.
man. You're an
You're breaking
idiot.
my
Just
chain of
let
thought.
people.
Finish up out. My apologies.
So the thing that was being said now, the thing for me about it is that what do we learn from this? This is where the big part about all of this, you know, at some point we've got to look at what the things that happen. It's not like it was all our fault or that kind of thing. It was a turn of events. Things happened. The fall of Songhai, and then at some point the Europeans got guns, because if they had not gotten that Gatling gun, it would have been a different story in terms of the outcome of situation for us, as in this situation that we're in. And the other brother, one of the brothers in here, talked about how we had folks who were had these bad mind, as the people in the Caribbean say, you have bad mind. Were exiled from communities, and these people were working with the Europeans. All these kinds of things have happened, and then we look at today, what's going on in Africa. We look at what happened yesterday, back in the day. We look at today, and these are the learning lessons that we need to start putting these things together, two and two together. And then, societies come into being and go out of being. Now is the time when Africans can come back into being. There is a window of time, and hopefully we make the right decisions to come back into where we need to go, because it's been 3,000 years since we have had a walk in the sun. 3,000. So know your history. I'll land right there.
Sorry, 3,000 years before walking the sun. Can you explain that? I don't understand.
I'm talking about the Nile Valley and Kemet was our last walk in the sun. As John Henry Clark said, our last walk in the sun. The 26th dynasty might have been it. And and in that dynasty, we went back and got old stuff. And we went back, thousands of years back to bring that back into they were building monuments and stuff and resurrecting a lot of the culture. Renaissance. It was like a Renaissance. This was like the 26th dynasty. So and they wrote the Shabaka Stone. That information in the Shabaka Stone that Kaba Kamene, brother, master teacher, writes about. He's got a book called Shabaka Stone. That the mayor or the pharaoh or whatever of that time commissioned that work, and that's the work that is got the Memphite theology on it, and it's a very, very important work that has a lot of science in it. But yeah, so that's what I'm saying. We need to, and then we need to. Our job is to go back and study what was going on pre-Islamic Mali and Kumisali and the early Sangor University. What was going on in Benin? What was going on in Kemet? And we need to be doing our homework so that we could advance, where we could take off from where we left, because another break off point is the 1300s, 1400s is another, because then you could begin to see the Europeans are coming in to their thing. 1492 they expelled the Africans out of Spain. Well, that's around the time when you could start to see the Europeans coming into this level of science and knowledge. For example, that white boy that came up with the base
I
two
said it
science
before.
that led to computer science and the computer technology. Kind of you can trace it back to Godfrey Davidson.
Not to cut you off. See, this the kind, brother. No disrespect. You mentioned me earlier about some of the stuff I said. You was referring to me, but this notion that you just stated about going back to Egypt and Arabic science, computer science. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm not trying to clown you, but that just lets me know you don't. First of all, and please don't take this the wrong way. Are you Black American or Black American? Are you a Black
American?
Okay, you want to say African American? Okay,
right.
Fine. You want to use
because
that?
let me tell you a little bit about. Let me just you hold on. Because in the 80s, it didn't come from Jesse Jackson. It didn't come from Jesse Jackson. Just want you to know that
what
part.
you just stated. You know why I asked that? Because what you just stated.
I know why you asked that.
Ignorant. No. I'm not even going from the delineation. That's what you think I'm going to go. I'm not even going FBA delineation. I'm going from history, history of America. That lets me know you are very ignorant of you. I'll use this term. So many people are triggered by FBA. I'm going to say U.S. slavery descendants. That includes whether you want to go by Black Americans, meaning non-Black American immigrants, freedmen, includes ADOS, FBA, Sulan. I'm going to say U.S. slavery descendants. What you just stated.
Does that include colored and Negro?
Hold on. Let me finish the thought. What you just stated a few moments ago lets me know you are very ignorant, and I'm not saying.
Well, what did I say that was ignorant?
Hold on. If you let me finish, you will understand what I'm saying. What you just stated lets me know you are very ignorant of U.S. slavery descendant history in the USA, post-slavery, during slavery, because you acting like, oh, we got to go back to Egypt and look at pyramids. Do you know that there's over 50,000 patents for inventions and innovations from U.S. slavery? No. You
I'm aware of that.
Finish.
I'm aware of that.
Then why would you talk about we got to go back to
because
Egypt
I know what
done?
I'm gonna tell you why. Because I understand clearly what that is. In the context of being in the United States and we're involved in sciences, we're gonna contribute. We're gonna rise to the top. I'm not saying that we haven't done that.
Hold on.
But for me, let me say this. In the context of being exposed to science, chemistry, all those things, we're gonna excel.
The very technology we're using right now to communicate over the internet.
I know that though.
That was no.
I know about inventions that we've done.
You do not know. You know
I
why?
do know about inventions that we have contributed to. Yes, I do. Because I've been hearing them before you were born.
Egypt,
before
about Arabs.
But
saying
you need to know this though, young brother, because before you were born, I knew about inventions. Before you were born, and you was a twinkle in your daddy's eye, I had heard these.
American engineer woman.
I can't talk over you, right? So I'm gonna let you finish. I have known about these inventions long time ago. Well, don't start talking when I start talking. I shut up when you start talking. I stopped talking when you started talking. When I start talking, you start talking. So let me finish and say this. Knowing about inventions, excuse me, sir.
You can't say go ahead and then carry on talking.
Is great. We've contributed to what's going on in this country because we've been involved in math and science and those things. And this is our natural thing. This is what we do. That's easy. But
would you talk about
hold on. That cannot be compared to 5,000 years of development in which you were building pyramids, in which you were doing anatomy and physiology and all these things for the first time in human history. You cannot compare being involved in science and chemistry and those things and making inventions. Although Carter G. Woodson was a genius. I give Carter G. Woodson his props. He was a genius. Because we've had people that excel within that.
Tell me.
You cannot compare.
You
cannot compare. What we were doing
I'm afraid I will down this one, but
to what we did in the last 200 years here.
Okay, you want to act like it's not a big deal?
No, I didn't say that. I said you can't compare it to Nile Valley and 4,000 or 5,000 years of culture and history.
Do not backtrack now. Since you want to act like it's not such a big deal, let's test it. Let's say every
put your hand in your pocket and give it a pat.
Let's test it.
It's not terrible.
No. See now,
no.
Why you won't let me speak? Because you can't back.
Come on, guys. Come on. We need both. We need both. We need both. All right.
Hold on. Here we go. Let's prove this right now. Since what Black Americans have been done is equivalent to the pyramids, so that means blood banks everywhere around the world, they have no value, right? So blood banks.
Are you being serious?
I'm being damn serious.
Well, you should not be serious.
Why are there a versus going on?
Where have we gone? Where have we gone? We've gone off subject.
We went off the edge. We went off the edge.
You know why I mentioned blood banks? Do you understand?
Yeah, but why is it a versus? Why is there a versus? Why is there a versus?
Hold on. I mentioned blood banks. Since you know so much, Shah, do you know why I mentioned blood banks? Do you know who makes blood banks possible?
Charles Drew was the creator of the blood bank.
Who? Yes, you know who Charles Drew is.
So you mean to tell me that's not as important as some peer?
It's all important. Why is there a versus? Why is there a versus?
That's a good question. Why is it a versus? That's true. Why is it a versus?
See, so you just proved my point.
You're supposed to add on to what your ancestors made. Why is there a versus?
Mythical past about
and then he says, because he starts off by saying what I'm saying is bullshit.
When someone needs a blood
he started off by saying this Pan-African stuff is bullshit. That's how he started out.
To the pyramids.
You want to start over?
He doesn't. He's very
now, if he had started it in a different way, then maybe we could talk. But
No,
I think
because
you
We're doing
started
that
out
FBA
wrong.
versus crap, man.
this the
You
problem.
started
Yeah, I
out
know.
wrong by saying what I'm
Y'all
talking
passport
about is
thing.
bullshit.
Y'all want to wax
Because
poetic about these
what we did
Wakanda
in this
forever
country is
fantasies.
more important and more valuable than what we did for 4,000 or 5,000 years. That's what you're saying.
All of it is important, man. Why I don't
So
get the
next,
verses?
so
You're
next
supposed to
time
add
you
on
have
to
a,
what your ancestors
so
did.
next time
Exactly,
you're bleeding
Princip.
to death,
Exactly,
This
Principal
you're
guy's
Boss.
asking the
stuck in an
people who
FBA
don't know
cult
who
Can I
died
get
mentality.
in
in?
Egypt and
I
they
know,
say
I
that
know, I
and
know.
that
Go
they
ahead,
Can
bro.
I
died
get in?
in
Hold,
I'm
hold,
new to the
don't
panel,
go
and
to a
all these
hospital.
go ahead,
these
brother. Go
Don't
ahead.
go to
Hold
a
on,
Africans
hold
got
on.
hospital.
1,000 years of history. I
Let the
don't know
new
why
guy
you
speak,
even
bro.
like.
You
Prof,
sound
Let
Prof,
the
you
new
crazy.
guy
speak.
And
It's
speak.
your
then
turn.
you want
He's
to
not
talk
even a
about
new
Like
guy.
spiritual
He's just
he's also
some
denied the
Prof,
African
tell her.
he's not
continent
It's
and
your
saying
turn to
the
speak.
energy associated with it.
Boss
Hey,
Ernest, are you there?
hey, guy. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in because I've been listening for like the last couple of hours, and
Yeah, Prof,
it,
you speak. Yeah.
it's weird. It's a weird conversation y'all having because in one reference you were referencing things that happened in Africa, and we should go back for those reasons. But then if you talk about the stuff that we've accomplished here, suddenly there's no verses. You're being
no, no,
hypocritical.
no.
thank you.
That's
Stop.
not.
I'm
Thank you.
talking. I'm talking.
That's not
I'm
what I'm
talking.
saying though. You
I
mischaracterized what I
understand, but
said.
No,
I understand. Let
I
me
Shah, let the
finish
didn't
what
man
I'm
say
speak.
saying
that.
Can't
You
just
Shah,
say
let
because
him
you
everything
let
mischaracterized
did
him
what I
speak, man.
said.
because you
Go
did say
ahead.
that because we heard you.
No, no, you mischaracterizing what I
My man, I'm
said.
still talking. I don't know why you speaking. You
Go
cannot
ahead.
reference ancient stuff and then tell us to go to a country that actually sold our ancestors
I
here.
didn't tell
I
you to
don't know.
go to Africa.
I don't.
I
Hear
didn't
me
tell you
out.
to go back to
I'm not.
Africa.
I'm not
He,
speaking
he didn't
specifically
tell
to
you to
you.
go Africa
No, I
either.
didn't
Yeah,
tell you to
that's
go back
true.
to
I'm not.
But
Africa.
just speak.
Africa's not a
I'm
country.
not speaking specifically to you. I'm
Then
speaking
who
to
are
the
you
people
speaking
listening.
to? Because nobody has
No,
said for you to go back
do
to
you want me to?
Africa.
Do you want me to tell you, or you want to keep talking?
Well, start right
Shah,
though. Start
Shah,
I was
Shah,
correctly.
trying. Don't you keep talking? Why don't you
Shah, let him
shut
speak,
up so
bro.
I can speak?
Let him speak. All right, tough.
This
Go
is
on.
to
It's your turn.
everybody that thinks we should go back to Africa. We are not African. Our ancestors have not been African
Then
in
we don't have a
centuries.
conversation then.
There,
Why are you
my
in
man, you
here?
still, my man, you
Why
still
are you
talking.
in
My
here?
man, you still talking.
Why
I
are
hope,
you
Why are
I
in
you
hope
here if
Dennis,
you're
talking?
not African?
Why
I
are
hope
you
Dennis is
talking?
listening to this.
Yeah, we're
Let him speak, man. Let him
Why
let
are you
him speak,
talking?
Shah,
Hold
man.
on.
I cut
Let him
you.
speak.
Why are you talking?
I had to step away, guys. I'm tired of the "why are you in here?" This platform's for everybody, and I'm tired of having to repeat myself. This brother's welcome to come on and express his opinion. Please stop with the "why
right,
are you in here?" Thank you. Go ahead.
right.
All I'm
Okay.
saying is we're not African. We've already established our own culture. We've been here for centuries. We have our own value systems. We have our own processes. We've developed our own sciences, our own knowledge. We're not that.
But we are
There's
talking about
no,
Africa
Wait,
though.
my
wait,
man. I'm
leave him,
still
leave
We
him,
are
talking.
leave
that
him,
though. We
bro.
are
I'm
that,
still
and we're
talking.
talking about
I'm
Africa and
still
the
let him
talking,
slave
man.
finish his
trade.
point.
We're not
I'm
talking about
still
what you're
talking,
talking about. I
sir.
think you're
Hey,
in
yo,
here
Sir,
being an Indian.
your
Shah.
problem is
Let me
you're
make
not
his
here.
point.
You're not here to
Hold on.
learn.
What, Mike? Shaw, you need to chill out, Shaw. Let the brother
Yeah,
talk.
please.
Don't
Yeah.
interrupt him. Go ahead.
Turf Taylor, when you finish, I would like to ask you one question. Please
Sure, let
continue.
me finish. Yeah, no
Yes,
problem.
sir. Yes, sir. You
So
go for it.
we have our own cultures, we have our own foods, our own music, and I'm sorry, yes, we're the most popular in the world. We're most influential and most valuable. That's who we are. I don't know why we want to regress into some other cultures that kicked us out centuries ago. It's a no-go. That's done. That bridge is
Okay.
burnt. So we don't need to move backwards. We need to move forward. We built this country. Our ancestors built this country. Our ancestors are buried in the ground of this country.
My
That's what
ancestors
we
was
should be
forced to
focusing
build
on.
this country.
Can I
And
ask
if
you a
they had a
question now?
Therefore,
choice, if they had
Can
a
I ask you
choice,
a
they
question
wouldn't
now,
have
sir?
built
all right, my
this
man. Yeah,
country.
shoot with your question. I
My
don't even know what
ancestors
he's
were
talking about.
forced to build this
Wait,
country.
bro. Wait,
Yours
bro.
gladly did, though.
Let's
Shoot your
discuss
question, my man.
instead of arguing. Let's discuss. Now, my
Yeah.
brother, um, are the white Americans still European?
No.
First, they are not.
No.
Okay, very, very good. I hear you. But what are they then? They're just American.
They're American. If you
And
ask them, they'll tell you
if
I'm
they tell
American.
you, if they
You're,
tell you,
Oh, sorry. go on.
wait, if they tell you, brother, that they are actually European of European stock and they believe in the European
they'll,
continent, what
well,
would
they'll
that be
only
them being?
say,
Would that be them
well,
being disingenuous or lying? What would it be?
well, they wouldn't say that, first of all. And obviously, you don't know what the white
No,
people did
answer. Just
culturally.
answer me.
I'm speaking. Let me answer the question.
Hold on. Let me interject real quick. Sorry, Jagoon. I've had these conversations with white people here where I'm at, and they'll let you know. Like one told me, he said, "Dinus, I'm a down south redneck." Like they don't
They don't play that European stuff.
They do not claim that. They do not claim that European stuff.
But they know
Can
their
I-
ancestry,
can I-
though,
can I
Dinus.
interject?
If
This
you
is
ask
very
them
important.
what's
They
their
will
history,
give their ancestry.
they know they're German.
No.
Hold on.
This is very
let me answer this question.
Guy. It's between Jagoon and
Truth teller.
Truth teller. Okay.
So that's what I was trying to get at.
Guys, chill out. Jagoon and Truth teller. Go ahead.
So your question is, they will acknowledge their ancestry to Europe, but they will not consider themselves European.
Okay.
None of them will. They'll reference their ancestry. Hey, my grandfather is from here, my grandmother's from there, in England and Ireland and blah, 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 Eastern Europe. They'll reference it, but they won't call themselves Eastern Europeans. They won't call themselves Europeans. They'll say that I'm American. More specifically, they'll say I'm white American.
Okay. You know, I heard this conversation between, I've forgotten both of their names. I must apologize. But it was on American TV. It was a black brother. I've forgotten his name, man. He's quite, it's not that I like him or follow him, but he's quite knowledgeable. And a kind of redneck white guy, whose name again I forget. I'm sorry about the way I'm saying this, but they were having an argument over Egypt. And the black guy was saying that this is the contribution of black people. And then the white guy said that those people in Egypt were not black. They are not black. He said, where are they from? He said, they're not black. They're mostly of European and Asian stock. And then the black guy broke it down to them why they are African. And he had to agree. And every time he would reference himself as a European. And that's funny. You know, the Europeans have built Australia.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
Wait. Let me just say this, bro.
Real quick, because you
let me just say this, bro. Let me just end.
I don't understand. I'm confused.
I beg your pardon. That's my fault. Australia
as a European, because you got
Australia.
Confused.
Okay, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and US. These are what I would suggest are European concepts, and Europeans being able to spread themselves around the world in a very effective manner. You believe that they are not pushing the European concept. Fair enough, no problem. But I disagree.
That Americans are Europeans. You don't understand anything about America.
I never hear you. I never heard Australian calling himself an European.
Between
Never.
Jagoon and other guys. Between Jagoon and other guys.
Yeah, to each other. But Jagoon in America, like unless it's unless it's like the especially here where I'm at in the South, these white folks they might say, "Hey, I have Irish lineage," but they are American. Like they not claiming.
I'm from the North.
And
I'm
he
from
knows
New York.
that. And he knows that as well. And he's
I'm
just lying
Italian
again.
American, or
Sad.
they won't even say Irish people don't even claim Irish American. They'll say I'm an American, but I'm Irish. They might say that. But
and what can you say though? What can you say you are? You're American, but you're what?
I'm a black American. I'm FBA.
Okay, you see the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were not able to keep your ethnicity because of the extremity of chattel slavery in America. You were not able to, because if you were able to, you would say you're mostly American. You have mostly ancestry, but you're American.
That's not true.
If you were able to.
Hold on. Can I respond to that? I can respond to that very easily. Black culture. So what are you talking about?
I'm talking about if you were able to retain your language and knew where you came from, you would say that I'm American, but my mama's people come from the Mosi people in Burkina Faso.
My mother's people come from Edgefield, South Carolina.
No, well, my people come from.
Hold on. Tracking it back to 1780.
Yeah, but before then, where were you from? Before then, where were you from?
But that's what I'm saying. Why would I go before 300 years ago?
And that's the difference between you and me. I got a history before 300 years. You don't.
What's your history? Show me your paperwork on your history.
My history is Congo, Yoruba, Guinea, Mali, Senegal area. That's my ancestry.
Quick question. What's your proof that those tribes are in your bloodline?
My proof is ancestry through spiritual things and through DNA. So I get it spiritually and through DNA.
Then, right?
No, no,
Intangibles, then, is what
no,
you're saying.
no, sir.
That's
Spiritually
intangible, sir.
and
That's what
through
that means.
DNA. DNA is a physical science, right?
Your
Is that intangible?
DNA is
Is
not
DNA
factual.
is
You should
DNA
read.
a tangible?
No,
Are you going to try
no, it's
to
not intangible. It's not.
okay, so then we don't
It's
have a
not
conversation
intangible.
if you don't
DNA is not
if you could
tangible.
be
You
the
know
baby
why?
daddy through DNA, but you can't
Hold on.
trace
You
your
know why?
ancestry through DNA.
You know why DNA is
I
not.
know the argument about it though. I do.
Hold
I
on,
really
hold on.
do. I know in depth the argument about it.
I'm not even going to use that argument.
You don't even know what argument I'm talking about.
I do. Quick question. What tribe are your ancestors from over 300 years ago?
Yoruba is a tribe. Congo is a tribe.
Quick question.
No, Congo is not a tribe.
Congo
Congo
is
not
an
a tribe.
ethnic
okay.
group.
You don't have to correct
Excuse
him.
me.
It's okay.
Excuse me. There's a people in a place called Congo called the Bakongo. I've been there. I was there for 6 weeks.
Bakongo, but it
The
doesn't mean
Bakongo
Congo.
means
Wait,
the
just let
Congo.
him finish.
Bayaka means the Yaka. Basunde means the Sunde. Bateke means the Teke. Congo was a nation that was created in the the kingdom of the Congo was created in the 1300s. And then in the 1800s, late 1800s, they created this country.
Okay,
Leopold and them or
Bakongo,
whatever
I
created the
understand,
country
but
called the
not
Congo.
Congo.
So I have one
You
quick
know, it's
question for you.
amazing that many people don't know that.
Hold on. So
Bakongo, yeah, Bakongo, I
one
understand
question
that.
for you. How far can you date your earliest ancestor?
To Bridget, who was the grandmother of Nat Turner. She was from the modern day Ghana, and she was Akan.
So Bridget, who's Nat Turner's mother, came from
Grandmother.
Akan.
She was from present day Ghana. She was Akan.
Okay, so she was Akan. When was she put on the slave boats and brought over here?
Around the early 1700s.
Gotcha. Where's the documentation that she was enslaved?
It's through a lawyer that did the work for the owners, the Turner people, or the Nottoway plantation and the Turners. There was a lawyer that did the work that substantiated the whole, who Nat Turner was and his mother was and his grandmother and all that. He did a lot of that work and published that work. So that was
quick
that was
question.
part of it. But the other part of it is my great aunt.
Wait, I got one more question before you
I'm
move
answering your question though. My great aunt did research in the 50s. She was
you said your
born in the
grandmother
late
1700s.
My great aunt who did research in the 50s and 40s was born in the late 1800s. I met her at 12 years old. She was 92. And she did the research how we found out that we were related to Nat Turner. So was that part of it.
Where was the maternity test that proves that you're literally related to that woman?
Maternity test? There's no maternity test, but I can tell you this much: what there is that the woman who my great aunt, her grandfather was married Nat Turner's daughter. She met her grandfather, and she met her grandmother, who was Nat Turner's daughter, Adeline Turner.
What part of that proves DNA?
The DNA test is separate. My sister did a DNA test, and that's how I know I'm Congo, Yoruba, and I'm also from parts of
That's not a
Guinea-Mali,
DNA
Senegal.
test. That's an ancestry test.
They use DNA. No, they do use DNA though.
They use DNA, but DNA test proves your relationship to people.
It's an aspect of DNA.
Not your ancestry. Your ancestry tests
and
are
then
not the same as
spiritually
DNA paternity
and
tests.
then there's the spiritual part of it that we determined. No, yeah, but this is all of these three disciplines corroborate each other.
But you don't have any proof of what you're saying.
Oh, I do. I have
at least he's trying to answer your question.
Her grandmother. I have an aunt that knew her grandmother.
He's actually dodging it. He's dodging.
All right. Okay.
And then I have the DNA that tells me the region that I'm from. Then I have the spiritual part of it, where in the early 80s, when we were doing these what they call misas, I was part of the Lukumi Santeria community back in the 80s, and we were doing these misas, and Spirit came and said, "This is who we are. This is where you from," and I ended up going to. That's tangible. Now, for you, if
This
you're
is
a
funny.
white boy, if you are a white-oriented mind, then you're not gonna You're not gonna appreciate and understand the importance of spiritual. So I can't help you
So
there. I can't
quick
help you.
question. What if the son of your grandmother was adopted? Does that mean you still have the same lineage?
Okay, so what if the sky was green?
You do realize that mothers back in the slave time frames, mothers took on other children
Sir,
quite a
your
bit.
conversation is you're
So you're
drawing for
gonna
straws.
This
You're
I'm
drawing
not
for
drawing for
straws.
straws. I asked.
Iman
Wait,
Jacob
hold on, hold
spoke.
on.
Let Iman Jacob
Okay, let
spoke.
me speak. Let me
He's
speak now,
trying
because
to
he's
find reasons why I don't
Jacob,
know that
no,
I'm connected to
no.
Africa. I don't
What
know
I'm
my
doing is,
ancestry because
hold
he
on.
doesn't.
I will. Can I speak
Because he
now?
doesn't.
Can I
Do you
speak
believe?
now?
Truth.
Hold on, my man. Hold on. Before you ask me
Hold
this,
on. What Mike? I
can
gotta
I
read
speak
the.
now?
I gotta read the super chat. Joseph Safar, thank you for Alhala. Shaw's point is his history doesn't start in chains and slave boats. Without Africa, history is just that. He got a point. Go ahead, truth teller. Go ahead, truth teller.
Truth. Can I quickly ask you a quick question again, which is,
I'm
do
gonna
you
speak first, sir.
that you are?
Sir, I'm not answering your question. I have something to say first.
Yeah,
Then
go
you
for
can
it.
ask me your question.
Go for it. Go for it.
So what I just did was I poked holes in his proof of his so-called ancestry. None of it can be actually traced back factual via DNA. The only thing he referenced regarding DNA is an ancestry test, which they disclose to you when you take it. It's not accurate. So I'm just confused. I'm not saying,
Excuse me.
I'm not. Hey,
Ancestry
sorry,
test is absolutely accurate.
No, they don't
Sir,
say it's
I'm
not
speaking.
accurate. They say what it is. They don't
They
say that it's
say
not accurate. They say that
it's
it determines so and so and so and so. They say exactly what it
no.
determines.
What they tell you is it's the same disclaimer they give you when they're doing an advertisement that's not serious.
Oh, so you took the
It's for
test?
it's for
You
entertainment
took the
purposes
test?
only.
So you
Is
took
what
the
they
test?
tell
All
you.
right,
My
that's
man,
belief.
I'm
That's
still
belief.
talking.
So you
That's
took the
another
test.
Okay,
intangible.
And that's what it
so let
said,
me
because my
that's
sister's
what
test didn't say that.
the disclaimer does say it when you sign the agreement. You
Oh,
should
you
read it.
read it? Did you read it?
Yes. Oh,
Oh, you
Jesus
did.
Christ.
Well, I read it
Actually,
My
too, and it
man,
didn't
I'm
say
still
that.
talking, so let me finish. So
I
let me
read it and
finish.
it
Teller
didn't
got
say
the
that.
point because you know
So
why?
so
If you go to
so
2 different or 3 different ancestry DNA
you'll get
test
different results.
companies,
Yeah.
you'll get different results. You will not get the
It's fine.
results if you go to different
Let
companies.
him believe it if he wants to, man. Let him go ahead. All
We
I'm
don't know.
saying
We
is
don't know.
DNA is not real, or is it like not tangible?
that's not DNA. You can't test the
You
people
said
They
DNA is
from
use
not
300
DNA.
years.
tangible. What do you mean by
There's
that?
no way
It's more like
They
a
DNA.
use your
probability of
DNA
Listen,
No,
to find
you
out
my
your
said
man.
DNA is
mtDNA.
Can
tangible.
I
That's
They do an
talk?
mtDNA
Can I
Hey,
test.
talk?
okay, guys. Do not
Jesus Christ.
true teller. You got a minute, guys. Don't interrupt.
Thank you.
You already get extra minute.
You
Go ahead.
cannot directly test the DNA of the people from 300 years ago. There is no way for you to do a DNA test. You can only do ancestry, which is why it's not accurate, because you cannot directly test them. So to get
Excuse
that
me.
out the way,
Ancestry is
so
linked to
Jesus
Oh
DNA.
Christ,
man!
come
All
on,
right,
man.
true teller. You got an extra minute. Go ahead.
Thank you. So what I'm trying to get to is, I don't know, and none of us know what happened before the ships. Hell, we're not even certain on how many of us came over here in the United States specifically from those ships. All I'm saying is we had to build a culture from scratch, and we did. I don't care what was here before. I don't care what we had before, because we can't know it. It was taken away. We do know what we have here now. We built it. It's ours. Why do we want to run away from that? I don't get you dudes.
Okay,
Facts.
so
And real quick,
Okay,
yo, Truth
my
Teller, you really
question.
Patrice O'Neal? Because you
My
sound
question.
just like him.
With your other minute, my question: do you believe that you have an emotional concept of the past in your own lineage, where you dislike the history as it is? You know, the history of slavery is a dirty and dusty one. It's not one that we can be proud of necessarily. Do you believe that is
Any dirty and
affecting?
dusty.
Do you think that that is affecting your mindset, or have you just being an American, being in America, being proud of America as you should be? This pride allows you to accept where you are today. no matter what has happened to you inside that very America as a black person?
I'm sorry, I think I lost you in the question.
I
Can you
beg your
give me the
pardon.
simple form? Can you give me the simple form of
Yes,
that question?
I can. Yes. Your emotion against being of African origin and still having that origin within you, does that detract, do you think, from your understanding of the lineage, and the lineage is still with you? Or is it just the pride in America and what America has achieved, even though black people have been treated very poorly in America? Is that easier?
I think your question is based on a misnomer. I never said we don't have African ancestry. So
No,
I don't know how to, I don't know how
question.
to, I don't know how to, right, but I don't know how to answer that question because it's based on me concluding that we don't have any African ancestry. I never said that. So I don't think I'll be able to answer your question.
Yo, truth teller,
Can
I
I
think I know the problem is with
can I say something? Can I say something?
I think I know the problem.
Can I
They
say
don't
something?
want to accept the fact
man.
that
Can
U.S.
I-
slavery
I'm not
descendants,
gonna
whether
take
you
too
go by
long.
freedmen,
They do an
FBA,
mtDNA
DOA,
test,
Oh,
and that is a
guys,
DNA.
hold on, guys. I'm gonna pass it to
Can I-
Passport King. Then we got, and then the JD. Then we got to close out. Go ahead, Passport King.
Yeah, this is the problem. I'm not going to put words in Truth Teller's mouth, but I think he might agree with me. This is the problem with the Pan-Africanists and them trying to beat us down that we're Africans. Y'all don't want to accept the fact that U.S. slavery descendants, whether we go by freedmen, ADOS, FBA, DOS, or Sulan, y'all don't want to accept the fact that we had an ethnogenesis and we are unique people who are our own distinct group here in the USA.
I agree with that fact.
I agree 100%.
I agree too, 100%.
Hold on. Don't cut me on. Let me take a quick sidebar. You know, they've done genetic studies, right? If you look at East Asians, there's three main groups. You got the Chinese, you got Korean, you got Japanese. They did genetic studies on them. The Japanese are actually descendants of Korean people who migrated into Japan. But guess what? The Korean people are actually descendants of Chinese people that migrated from, I think they would be like the Han people in northern China that moved into Korea. So in other words, there was Chinese people that moved into the peninsula that today we know as Korea, and some of those people branched off and they went eastward, that would be westward. Sorry, they went westward across the Japanese Sea into modern day Japan. Now, do you look at Japanese and Koreans and say, well, y'all just Chinese that migrated, how many thousands of years ago? No one does that.
Well, we're talking about 200 years ago.
But that's
no,
my point.
I think that's a fair example he's giving. I think he's fair.
But that's thousands of years. We're talking about 200 years.
No, let's listen. Let's
Black
listen,
Americans
please.
who aren't immigrants, whether we go by freedmen or we go by FBA or we go by ADOS, we go by DOS, we go by Salon.
ADOS is a political organization.
People. We aren't Africans. We may have African descent, but we're not Africans.
Are you of African descent?
Hold on. Just like Japanese.
No, are you of African descent?
Oh, damn, Shaw, bruh.
But they keep doing that to
Let me
me.
finish the point.
No, let her finish, and I got to pass it to Jada because I'm going.
Just
to
like Japanese aren't Koreans,
thank you so
Koreans
much.
aren't Chinese.
Jada, I didn't say yet. Passport King, you got 30 seconds. Then Jada, then I got to close out.
Oh, come on, let me get last, man.
Just like Japanese aren't Koreans, Koreans aren't Chinese. They may have a shared lineage distant in the past, but they are distinct national ethnic groups. No one disputes that. They don't dispute it. Guess what? They all eat with chopsticks. So would you just tell a Japanese person, oh, y'all eat with chopsticks, you eat rice, you're just Chinese? They would look at you like you was crazy. You might catch hands and feet because they would be insulted. Likewise, the Koreans.
Like you're crazy.
The problem is y'all refuse, for whatever reasons, and it is not always the same, y'all refuse to accept the fact that U.S. slavery descendants, and again, yes, there's multiple names for our people because different people use different names for different reasons. We are our own distinct group. Even if we have African,
I don't think no one's disputing that.
We are not.
I agree with that part.
Yeah, I don't. You see, a Black American, African Americans, or whatever you want to call yourselves, whatever you want to call yourselves. If I can just say this, Dennis.
I gotta pass the mic to Judy. You want to close out? Go ahead, Judy.
Thank you so much, Dynasty. Yeah, I think I've listened to what everyone has to say, and I think what everyone has to say is valid. But there's some flawed arguments from I think Truff Taylor and Passport King. So first of all, no one is disputing that you don't belong to a group due to your experiences. A lot of these identities that we claim for ourselves are products of colonialism. So Passport King and Truth Teller are saying they are Americans, right? They are, they can call themselves Black Americans, African Americans, or whatever, or FBA. But the point is, all those things that you've achieved are due to the colonial experience from slavery. That's number one. In Nigeria, we have a unique experience, right? From colonialism, right? We have our own experience of an achievement and whatever our view, right? That's number one. Number two is when it comes to ancestral tests, you can never. I'm a scientist, so it's something that I know very well. It's my field. When it comes to ancestry, you cannot separate ancestry from DNA. They are completely linked. In fact, how you look, your race, is not necessarily your race, but your physical appearance is directly linked to your DNA. And your DNA is directly linked to your ancestry, which is African ancestry. So whether we are in denial or not, that's a fact, because that's science proven, right? That's the second point. The third point is this idea of, I'm an FBA, I'm this, I'm that, and I'm trying to disregard ancestry. I'm not trying to badmouth America. I love America. I mean, there are many negatives I have about America, and there are many positives. But the point I want to make about this thing is, I've noticed that one of the major core fact and values of America as a nation is, one thing I've noticed is, they always try to remove ancestral conversation or ancestral analysis from their conversation. If you talk to a white American, they will say they are not European, they are whites, right? They are white Americans. The same thing with some Black Americans. They'll say, I'm not African. I think it comes from the ideology itself, the ideology of exceptionalism, individualism, which is also European in itself. Right? Individualism, exceptionalism.
Well said, Jide. Well said, brother.
Can I respond to your point?
And that's
no.
After
Jide, I gotta close out. I'm going to bed.
My final point, my final point to save time. My final point overall is that all the culture you're talking about, the African American culture, is a beautiful culture. I'm not denying it. But if you look at those cultures, even though unfortunately, due to the legacy of slavery. Let me go on, please. I'll finish now. Even though due to the legacy of slavery, there was a puritanical approach of slavery in the United States to ensure that African consciousness was wiped out. Despite that, the product of African American culture, like the call and response culture, there are many. I can go on and on, right? The call and response music culture, the folk culture, I can go on and on, can be traced to West African culture.
Directly. Brother, well said, Jide. Well said, Jide.
All right, guys, we gotta close out. Everyone, thank you for joining. Like, subscribe. Till next time, family.